brought it down to 100.
It's now 5:50 PM. Call to order our public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is for the Dickinson County Behavioral Health Services fiscal year 2024 performance contract. Would note, Madam Clerk, for the record, that all members are present along with County Administrator Mr. Barton. At this time, the phone line will be open for public remarks. If you'd like to make a telephonic comment, 276-333-0357. Also, the podium is open for anyone who would like to make an in-person comment in regard to the fiscal year 24 behavioral health performances contract.
So I have a question. Is this at the back page? Is this that 615 people were helped? It says the number of people receiving services.
No, actually we served 1,700 and like.
Where's that at? What page?
83.
It's on page AP1, Ms. Fuss. It's about 5 pages back from the last page there, so.
That's just for those core services that it talked about. There's 3 core services. Early intervention, assessment, and emergency.
What's that? Those numbers are for that, just that?
Just those services. The last several pages are a breakdown of several of the different services. There was 1,781 in total
1,781.
that was served. That breaks down, if we're still looking at a population of 14,000, that's about 12.5% of the county that we actually serve.
You know, Mr. Mullins, the number of children versus adults, is there any way to know that number? Of
I can
that
get that number for you. It's
17?
not on this table, but we can.
What would you guess?
pull that. We're running about 30% children right now.
Really?
Yeah,
Is that include 18 and below?
18 and below, yeah.
Goodness.
The number of children that we're seeing, like the school system, has literally skyrocketed over the last several years. And then, of course, referrals through DSS and just walk-in.
Do you have somebody that helps young people that have problems? You know, we've had a lot of suicides in the last month, 2 weeks. Do you have somebody or individuals that help people? I mean, I'm not trying, I want to get help.
We've had, I've got 4 staff that go to the schools, to all the schools in the county. We've actually had staff in the schools for the last 35 years. And of course, the school board recently contracted with Family Preservation Services to do some services, some mental health services as well. So there are actually several mental health providers that are in the school systems right now, trying to work with kids. Of course, just before school, we unfortunately had a young man pass away, and we, of course, sent individuals up there the next day, trying to work with kids. We've had several children that came into services at that point.
Very tragic.
Any calls, Mr. Mullins?
No, sir.
Anybody else like to make a remark? Any other members with comments? Not hear a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Your second.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion before we close the public hearing? Any calls? Any other comments? All those in favor of closing this public hearing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As well. We adjourn till 6 p.m. Now, 6 PM, we will call this regular monthly meeting of the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors to order. If we will, let's please join our hearts in a word of prayer before we begin the meeting. Heavenly Father, we thank you for another beautiful day that you've given us in Dickinson County. I ask that your blessing be over this meeting as we deliberate the county's business. I ask that we treat one another with respect and kindness as best we can, dear Lord, and I ask that you be with each member as we make decisions for the betterment and progression of Dickinson County. I ask you to be with our first responders, law enforcement, military men and women, both home and abroad. I ask you to be with Mr. Barton as he carries out the day-to-day business of the county. Please give him strength and wisdom and guidance to do the best by Dickinson County as he can. I ask that you keep us all safe. I ask for a special blessing on each home that's represented here this evening, dear Lord, and that everything we do is ultimately pleasing to you. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, you want to please pledge?
Everyone stand for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda would be item number 2. We have several minutes in our packet that need our formal approval. Are there any issues or concerns with the minutes of the ARPA workshop from March 30th and the public hearing and regular meeting of July 25th?
I did have comments, but I can't remember. Do you think we need to?
We make the correction on the ARPA with the Sandy Ridge.
Yeah, it was just a typo. We kept referring to it as rescue squad, and it was the fire department we authorized.
Yeah. Ms.
That's the only
Ozark
thing I
had that
mentioned.
corrected, so-
That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Any other issues or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go ahead and approve all three
Is there a
at
second?
one time.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As well. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for all your work on that.
Yes.
Item 3 would be approval of our agenda. Mr. Barton, are there any matters or any members that have modifications or additions or?
No, we do not have
Questions
anything,
about
but
the-
at your desk, there is some supplementary information that goes in your packet. I'll go through each one of them as we get to that point.
All
So I
that's
think we're omitted.
supplemental to what's already
That's
on
what's
there?
already in there, so there's no new items.
I would like to discuss litter because we've had some citizens asking about the litter cans and what's legal and
Well, let's,
stuff.
if you may,
Where we're
Mr.
at with
Peters,
that.
let's do that on the consent agenda piece, because litter's in that anyway, so we'll,
How about the
you know what I'm
liquor
saying, we'll do that next.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any additions to the agenda, though, or amendments to the agenda?
I would like to, we can talk about the animal control. I got something I would like
Okay, well, let's do that on number 4. Is there any,
4D. All right.
anything to the agenda, though? If not, let's approve the agenda then.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Need a second?
Second.
Any amendments or modifications, just to be clear? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye as well. Consent agenda, Mr. Peters, before Mr. Barton goes any further, you go ahead with whatever your piece was.
Oh, is that, I thought you were gonna do it according, so everyone's.
Well, before
fine
we
with-
approve it, I was gonna let you hash out anything, or.
Well, no, I just wanted to hear from Mr. Barton, because I know we've been putting flyers out, and I've had a call from a citizen and that.
Go ahead.
Complaining.
Sure. I can update you, Mr. Peters, and members of the board. We have been, in recent weeks, our folks that run the trash trucks, all of our sanitation workers have been in the areas where there's freezers being used for waste disposal by the road. They have been posting notices on them and taking record of the address and the date the notice was posted and things, giving them 30 days to, get an acceptable container before, we won't be able to pick up their trash out of the freezers. We're getting close to that deadline with a lot of them right now. And at the same time, Mr. Willis in Litter Control is actually going out to a lot of the areas that he knows where they are and talking to residents individually. We have some people, I've been contacted by many people. I've took a lot of phone calls. Many people have already constructed acceptable containers. Some have said that, they can't afford to do that. Some have asked, about trying to paint the freezers to camouflage them. So really all across the board. But as of right now, we are still moving forward with that, so.
Where are we at getting where they can write citations when it comes time to enforce?
We are still waiting on that, the training for them, the special conservative and police training. It will be offered locally this fall. We've inquired on that before the meeting. Last we heard it's gonna be September. Right now they're saying it won't be September. It's through Mountain Empire and A&A are working on that. So we're hoping sometime this fall we can get that training done. And of course, you as a board will have to make a recommendation to the courts to Patton to designate them as a special conservator of the peace, but they've got to have that training piece first.
Couple of things from the one citizen that came to several of our meetings. He indicated the one freezer is just flipped over so that the yellow decal that's put on it saying, identifying it's a problem. I think there's something they're sticking to the freezer.
There's a yellow.
They've turned it upside on its side so it's no longer visible, but it's still out there like a piece of trash.
Now, what we are doing on these, when they do, we will offer to go through, when they cease using those, and we can pick those up, our litter control can, and dispose of those appropriately, but we're not gonna take anybody's freezer until, the homeowner agrees that we can pick it up. So,
Another thing I was gonna mention is, when we go out notifying these people, if there's a complaint from a neighbor, a more professional way of approaching that for our guys would not be to throw that neighbor under the bus that
Right.
filed the complaint.
Right,
It
and
would
we have discussed
to
that with our
identify
staff
there was a
on that.
complaint and it is in violation of our ordinance. We just need to stick to what our ordinance is.
Correct, and our ordinance actually that we're discussing here was actually adopted back in 2009 by the Board of
Yes.
Supervisors back in 2009. And nothing's been changed by this board or anything.
I think
since then.
legally, Will can address that, but I think legally, if somebody makes a complaint and they ask for the person who did the complaining, that you have to tell them who it is.
Well,
I know when I worked at the health department, we did. They put it in the
I
health.
wouldn't, it could be, I don't know.
They put it, if they wrote a thing down, like requesting the information of the person who complained, then we had to give them the name.
to me, it would depend on how that's documented. There's not something that automatically says, hey, you've got to be able to give that information.
I didn't think there would be, because from an organization, I would think our stance would be, we're policing and enforcing the
Correct.
ordinance, and we
You
just,
wouldn't get many complaints.
how they get it is, because there's a lot of things where
They don't,
you can anonymously
legally, I
call
think
in
they
and
have
stuff.
to.
No, I
and
don't think you did.
Now, if it's documented with
We were
some
made to.
other details in there with obviously from a FOIA request, you got to be careful about that.
Yeah.
But there's not a policy that says, hey, you got to give
Yeah.
They can FOIA it and get the name, can't they?
It'd have to be in an actual document.
And in this case, it was in a public meeting anyways, if they looked at it, they would see it, but I just don't think we need to be getting into that. We should this is the ordinance and we're enforcing
It's
it.
sort of not fair to pick on people who just got freezers. I've seen some that look like they throw
Well,
some boards up together.
And that's not what they're doing, because the acceptable containers, they're trying to work
How
on
about
that.
the
In the first
other
place, it's just the
unacceptable
freezers.
containers?
I'm sorry.
What about the other unacceptable containers?
They are gonna work on that as well, but right now, they're just working on the freezers right now, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
My biggest complaint that I've had from the calls and Facebook messages from people is that they use a freezer because of bears. And I have one elderly lady that says, I am just not able to climb the hill to clean from the bear dragging my trash off. So, I mean,
We live in bear country, so in some shape or form,
They drug my trash
citizens
off.
are gonna have to protect their trash somehow.
no.
Either, I've seen some people put chain link covers over it, and then I wheel mine in the barn and then wheel it out trash day, because they don't usually come around that day, they come at night, the bears do. I've lived with experience of it, because I've got teeth marks in my trash cans from the bears.
Well, I was up at Klitschko up in that hollow there where the Little League field used to be, and they got
Right.
some trash bins up there, about 3 or 4. And there was some fellas left him some trash, and a bear hit into that dumpster, and you could see its trail up
Straight up the hill.
Yeah,
straight up the hill, and it took trash on straight up the hill.
All right, is there anything else, Mr.
No,
Peters, on
no,
that
that's
piece?
all I got.
Did you, what'd you have?
Well, the reason I have something to say about dogs is that I was got a phone call and visited some people yesterday who were concerned about people keeping, and I know it's not a popular subject. I mean, leash law is something that people don't like, but I have experience. My granddaughter, 10-year-old granddaughter, and her mother were attacked by 4 dogs in Norton. And it was a vicious attack. And it traumatized my little granddaughter till she had to have therapy. And she's very petrified of dogs. These people were complaining because there were 4 dogs that come down on their property and attack their dogs. Now, I think that I know the town of Clintwood has a leash law, and you don't really see any stray dogs around Clintwood. They do a really good job of keeping the dogs either chained or on a leash. I can't say the same for the city of Norton, because that's where my granddaughter was attacked, and they sort of sloughed it off, and they do have a leash law. So I did tell the people yesterday that I would bring it up. And I, for one, don't like other people's dogs coming on my property. And not that I like dogs. I really like dogs, but my own son was terrorized for 13 years by my neighbor's dog. He couldn't even ride a bicycle down the road for it attacking him. Is there anything that, other than a leash law, and I called Shannon and asked him about it, and they do have a vicious dog ordinance.
Dog run.
But in this certain circumstances, they didn't have eyewitness to the dog being attacked, so there was really, but what I would like to hear from the residents of the county. I don't think we have the biggest dog problem as we used to, tell you the truth, because I don't see a lot of stray dogs.
I do.
You do?
I do. They drop them off. We had the FedEx guy stop last Thanksgiving, and he found a puppy in a trash can, and then over across the ridge on Rakes Ridge, they found a puppy that looked like from the same litter dropped in that trash can. And my sister-in-law thankfully took it because he dropped it off at my house. Then they turned it into the pound, and then the next day they went and got it back again. And I had 2 strays coming to my house, and it got to a problem. We still haven't overcome this problem, but it's something we're gonna deal with because we inherited it now. But these 2 dogs were interfering with the cat coming in and eating. And so we turned the dogs into my wife he called, one of them had a phone number, called, and they picked them both up. And the owner did not want the dog because he couldn't keep control of it, so Liza sat there, she's the one that called him, she seen him on Facebook, she went and picked him up again.
Well, I told the people I would mention it, and as for myself, I have no problem with the leash ordinance all over the county. It's just like we talk about litter. We want tourism in the county, and yet we won't clean up. If a house burns, people let it fall down. Look, it's a hazard.
Ms. Sturgill, do you have any answers on what our options are?
Well, I do have something I was gonna say on this, don't they pick it up and then they either take care of the dog and they have to pay a fine or something, and make sure it has a dog license? That we need to make sure is being enforced. So
Correct.
that's
Most of
one
them
thing.
don't have dog licenses, that's for sure.
I know, and those things should be dealt with because it's a requirement.
And that's under the vicious dog ordinance. The other option would be if you want to enact a leash law.
Oh, so, because I know if I call them to pick up 2 strays, they pick them up.
Well, they're good
But
about
I'm
that.
sure if the owner goes down there to get them back, that point, they should be enforcing the dog ordinances.
Right, just looking at a report here, they had 30 strays that they picked up this past month, dogs, 30 stray dogs and 11 stray cats. And 1 dog was reclaimed by the owner, no cats. The rest were all transported
Yeah.
out to another facility, so,
Well, they don't euthanize dogs or cats anymore.
correct.
They transport them out, which is a
Yeah.
good thing.
They're adopted out, they meet every Wednesday morning.
Nevertheless, I don't have that problem anymore, but I have had that problem with people.
Well,
My
and-
other nephew was bitten in the face, had that 5 stitches by a neighbor's dog. And, you know,
Rhonda, in the situation I had, they were not taking any right at that moment because they had too many on their hands. So our guys had to try to find homes for them, and that's how we ended up going and getting them back. 'Cause
What is the opinion of the board on a leash ordinance for the county?
You all haven't been around long, but if you,
I know
if
it's not
you do
popular.
this, you will have an overflow crowd. I've seen them
Well, that's
standing
all right, I don't
room
care. Let 'em
in
come
the
in.
courthouse.
Ms. Sturgill, is this something you'd like to research and lay out some options, or do you have some information right now you'd like?
I'd love to be able to research and bring.
Just
it
lay
back
out
to
a
the
few
board.
options.
Correct.
All right, let's let him do that.
Okay.
I'll have
Maybe he'll send out a memo or something. Anything else on the consent agenda, though? We
I
got
was
several people.
just surprised that they had responded to 110 calls in July for animals. I thought that was,
Quite a few calls.
I thought that was
Yeah.
a lot of calls for that month, because I don't think I'd seen it in any of our other reports being that much. But I don't have anything else,
that
John.
really tells how big the problem is.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to ask? If there's not any other comments or questions, we need a motion to entertain or to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, brings us to item 5, public comment. The floor will be open for in-person comment. We ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and just please identify yourself before you speak. If you'd like to call in with a remark, the phone number is 276-333-0357. Floor is open and the phone lines are open.
So this Friday, they're playing Morton
Yep.
at Ridgeview.
Yep.
Terry, are you on the agenda?
No, I'm not on the agenda. I'll speak to you.
So you probably want to bring your stuff up now, am I?
Okay.
And I'm not trying, I'm just trying to be helpful. And I think you guys from Clinchco, or from Hayside, I mean, you guys, we know about it, but it might not hurt for you to speak to it.
Terry Bartley, from Hayside Rescue Squad. Back last spring, I was here on, we was gonna try to get a grant for a new cot for the ambulance that we're supposed to be getting in October. We got the grant. The grant was for $42,012.86, and we'd like to go ahead and purchase the cot if the county is still able to help us with the rest of it, so we can have it installed in the truck before we get it delivered. The company is building the truck, so they would install it first if we would get it to them. That's the only reason I'm here on the spot.
What about a $20,000 balance?
Say, Terry, share the amount that we
Yes, sir, the
pay on.
balance is roughly 25,000.
Through the ARPA.
Something like that.
Yeah, this is one thing, board members, we discussed this with him back during one of the
Yeah.
workshops and things, and, he'd let us know. We indicated to him, it wasn't a formal vote or anything, but we indicated to him that we would, take care of that and help them with that if they could get that grant.
Yeah,
on
we
that. So,
indicated that, but it's also not in our budget either.
it is not in our budget, and, if this is something the board, kind of already agreed to do it, then I can, find a way to take care of this for us.
Well, I think we did, so I don't know.
Are there
That's what I
any-
look at it, too.
Tell me
We
about-
kind of gave an indication that we were gonna do it. I'm not arguing it, I just wanted to mention that because
We agreed to
I
it.
could be
we all
wrong, but I think we
agreed.
actually voted on it.
we knew about it, we knew it was
Are
coming.
they ARPA funds?
Why we didn't,
Well, we didn't know if they was gonna get the
We can
grant.
vote again if we want to make sure.
No, I told you I was applying for it.
Yeah.
I got
but you
it.
didn't know you was gonna
Yeah,
get
you didn't
it.
know you was gonna get
We
it.
did
And
get
what
it.
was it? excuse me, it was
For
for
an
what?
ambulance.
First cot, the parallel
A cot,
cot
okay.
goes in the back of the ambulance, where you put the patient on, pick them up, it picks them up. puts
Oh,
them in-
and that cost that much money?
Well, you're good, we're good. Thank you, Terry.
Yes,
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Terry.
Thank you all.
Did
Do
you
we need
wanna,
to vote?
I don't know what you talk about on the other, the legals.
Charter purpose expenditure, and it'll be.
There's about a fire truck, the one we just got, it's failed its pump test. You know, the one that they drove from Sussex?
Volunteer fire department, the engine that was donated to us, I think April, maybe of this year, was pump tested today. It failed pump test. I did send Fish Martin a copy of the pump test. There's quite a few things that was wrong with it. The estimate that we got to fix it was $8,000 to $10,000.
Okay.
Our engine 12 that is at Roanoke, it is actually done, but there was some damage done to the pump, and it is being held there until they get the parts to fix the pump so we can get it back. Because they said, we can come and get it now, but we don't know when the pump will ever be fixed.
How much is it, you said?
For the Division 11, $8,000 to $10,000 to fix it.
So we've got a pump that's down in Clinchco,
Yeah.
thousands. One
Yeah.
that's here,
Price on
thousands.
that.
And a ladder truck in Clintwood, thousands.
And that's why I
We've
wanted
got
to
about
make-
$100,000 in issues. I mean, roughly.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, like,
About 97
in your guys' case, have those parts been on order for that other engine up there for a while?
Once it was finished, I have to go back and check the date. They, said it could be 6 weeks to 6 months, that they didn't know when that they would get it in. They did tell us we could come and get it, and that once they got the parts in, that they would try to get here to come and fix it, but we didn't want instructors to come here and sit in our building that we can't use.
And the reason I wanted to highlight that is because that engine has been a struggle to find parts for.
It has.
Are you all down to no,
Well,
What-
both of our, so engine 11, which was the one that we got donated, it failed, and our engine 10 failed too. It
Well,
So does that mean
doesn't
you-
need as many.
what's a pump test? What is a pump test? Draw down? How much it draw down?
How much it pumps out.
Pumps out, what's it supposed to pump?
That I don't know. The paperwork that I have, it just tells me what it did pump. And.
So it was below, that's like pumping out a well, when they do a pump test on a well, I
It's-
guess.
it's
Yeah.
how-
The
yeah.
drawdown.
And so right now, I mean, we can use our engine 10, it had like some.
Well,
wasn't
can you
as
still,
bad
can you
as-
still spray water with it?
You can, I don't know about engine 11, but I don't think I can fix it. There's got a lot more wrong with it that we didn't know. It's got a whole list of stuff that's wrong with it. I mean, I don't care to read it to you. But like our engine 10, they told us an estimate like $800 and some is what it would cost to fix it. So that one's a lot more reasonable than engine 11. But so like right now, we're down to, hardly anything. And, I mean, I know
Well,
we discussed, I know it's not in the budget for new fire trucks or whatever, but, we're gonna need one real soon.
here's my suggestion. Thank you, Ms. Cook. Mr. Mullins at Clinchco has had a problem for what, 3 months now?
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
we've
for a
passed
while.
him
They
up
found
on.
out they weren't gonna pay for it today.
Mr. Stanley has had a problem, and then now we have this problem. And I'm not saying, I'm just
Yeah.
chronologically,
Yeah, but
Clinchco.
I know there's other
But
departments.
my point is, I think we're gonna have to schedule a special meeting to figure out what we're gonna do. I mean, we're not gonna figure it out in the context of this meeting here, but we're gonna have to discuss it and figure it out.
Well,
Do y'all agree with that? I mean,
yeah, I thought we had already decided to do that. I mean,
what?
have a special meeting with.
Just for
Uh-huh.
fire departments, but I think
Well,
that's what.
maybe, we had talked about the rescue squad, didn't we?
Fire and rescue both.
Excuse-
We all of
Rescue
it, go
boat.
ahead.
excuse me, during all that ARPA nonsense, I stressed to this board that these used trucks do exactly what just happened. We don't know the hours on the pump, and they fail. They're pretty when they come in, because they usually don't have many miles. This hand-me-down stuff doesn't necessarily last very long. I've seen this over the last 2 terms, and we're now at the point where every fire department, 4 of them anyways, are asking and need a fire truck. And I tried to stress to you that we should buy one, and we should use the funds out of the casino, and I think our county administrator suggested that, to start coming up with
We use
something
that
that's
for
gonna
school.
sustain rescue and fire. At least rescue, we can luckily get a grant once in a while for an ambulance, but these guys, I think I seen one fire truck last term. And right now, going out and buying a truck's not gonna solve the problem today because it's probably a 2-year
Okay,
wait
yeah,
to get a
you
truck.
could get a new truck.
But if we never get started in some kind of sustainment plan, we're asking for a train wreck.
So
So
what do
you
you
said
want him
there
to
was
do? You
one
want him
that
to do quotes
cost
on
how
trucks,
much?
or-
What was the
Hey,
least
we
one that
got one from
cost?
Hayside.
Just
They were the
around-
next ones in line to get a
$900?
truck.
That's to fix
Well,
our
that's
engine.
more feasible than $9,000.
And then engine leaving was somewhere between 8 to 10,000, they didn't know exactly, but it's got a lot more wrong with it than our engine 10. Like I said, engine 12, once they get it fixed, it come through
Yeah, we need to have.
an insurance claim, so it will be fixed, I just don't have a time frame on it. And so, yeah, engine 10 is actually the one that the county bought for us back in 2006, it was a new truck then in 2006, but that's been.
But it came to us as another
Fire
used
truck to
truck.
last 20 or
Yes.
30 years.
And so, yeah, we've not had a new one
You
since.
expect a fire truck to
And,
last 20
You shouldn't
years.
be.
And I'm just saying, they're costly.
They are.
But we've gotta have a way of sustaining this, and when we ran into this with the garbage trucks too, cause they're not geared for the mountains.
Yep,
And they're, you know, low belly on those.
yep, yeah.
Hey.
We failed.
They have to do a punch test every
Yeah,
year,
that's what
and so it just happened to be today that
So-
they did it.
We gotta have some kind of sustainment plan. I don't
What's your
even,
sustainment plan, whatever that means?
well, we probably need to have a cycle like fleet management, what we were trying to do with the garbage truck, and we stripped out of this year's budget. We need that, but we also need something for these fire trucks, because I don't know, they may last, I don't know how long they'll last. It really comes to the wear and tear.
Should
but I
last a
know
long
that-
time in this area, I would think.
So what do we
Yeah, I
wanna do
would
right
too.
now? What do we wanna do?
What's that?
We're still in public comment.
I think right now, Mr. Chair, that you are correct. We are going to have to look at a way to regroup on how we're operating with fire and rescue both within the county right now. It's not going to be an
Thank you,
easy
Ms. Cook.
solution for sure. We do need to start those discussions, and it is something better held outside of a regular scheduled meeting
Yeah.
to start with those discussions.
So what we can do is, once we get, probably a better place, we could go ahead and set a meeting for this while we're here. So,
Meet when?
well, we'll figure it out later on in the agenda here. Let's try to move, do we have any calls?
There's one on the line now.
There's one on the
no
line,
ID
I think.
info.
You want us,
Yeah, I'm unmuting now.
okay. Tell me when I'm ready.
Good.
We have a caller for public comment, is that correct? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, just please state your name and go ahead with your remark, please.
Yeah, this is Dusty Willis. I'm one of the liquor control officers.
Hey,
I was
Dusty.
listening to you there a while ago and stuff, you know, talking about the trash and stuff like that, and also the bear situation. But when I was on the trash trucks and stuff, which it was happening a lot of times, which a lot of them don't really talk about this part, but I remember when I was with Chris Wood with his partner and stuff out there, like our runs on a Thursday, we could go through there and do that trash run on a Thursday. Then on my way home that evening, a lot of them would have the trash right back out for the following Thursday. So it's gonna lay there that whole entire week,
Is that
which
what we
that's
need?
gonna cause a lot of bears and everything else come through the can.
Yeah. It will.
Y'all got any questions for Dusty? Thank you, Dusty. You're doing a great job.
Awesome job.
Thank you, sir.
Any other calls? Is there anybody else that'd like to make a remark that's here in person? If not, I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
And let's go to item 6, old business. Larry, would this Hayside lease qualify for old business? We could bump that up, or do we wanna,
We carried over from last month.
We did.
I think it's on the agenda.
can we just do that and let's let these gentlemen get on with their evening? Mr.
That'd be
Deal worked all
perfectly
day.
fine.
I'd like to go ahead and try to get him moving if that's okay with everybody. Mr. Deal, if you would come up, and Mr. Gates, if y'all come up here and have a seat, if you would.
Mr. Chair, in the little addendum packet here that
If you
you
would-
have, there is
Yeah, please.
3 items here for 8A that you have in your packet. It'll be the comparison of their lease with the McClure River lease, the lease itself, and I think Mr. Deal's gonna share about some PowerPoints
Yeah.
with you. It's in there.
So I want to try to control this dialogue a little bit, and then you all can open it up. But for 3.5 years now,
we have went back and forth and gotten bogged down and messed up in regard to utility bills at the Hayside Kiwanis complex. So, Mr. Deal, at my request, and I appreciate it very much, he's the treasurer of the Hayside Kiwanis. He owns a business in the town of Hayside. He's very smart on accounting, he's very smart on business, he's a very smart person. I asked Mr. Deal to go through each meter that we pay a bill at Kiwanis. And we have, so that way we would have concrete answers rather than speculation every time this comes up and has come up for 3.5 years. So, without further ado, I'm gonna ask, and then I would ask you all to just let him tell what meters are paid, what they serve, how they serve, and then ask questions. But he done a lot of work on this, and I'm trying to clarify this thing once and for all, so we can get a project done that we've approved for funding.
In the
Mr. Bill, if you're ready.
attachment, you'll have a sheet like this that tells what we're talking
I
about.
thought it was.
Yeah, she,
Yeah.
So just please be patient and listen to them closely, and then ask questions.
It's in the addendum that we left, it's in this
It's in the,
packet here,
Okay.
near the back. It'll
Near
be-
the
All right, thank you.
It's in that
it's a little
packet.
simple sheet with account
Right,
numbers.
it's on the main back.
Nope.
It's closer.
It was in this packet. I seen it earlier.
Should be near the
Okay.
back, like,
Back next to
Thank
that.
you.
At the end
Thank you,
of,
Josh.
8A, it'll be right here.
Oh, okay.
I'll find it. Go ahead.
Okay, you'll notice,
All right, let's listen close here. I'm not being rude about that, but this is something that we've gone on for over almost 4 years. So here's our answers to this. So I want to get this resolved. I'd like to get this lease passed, and I'd like to get the pickleball courts, the handicap swings, and a major project for the Sandley community funded and done. So let's listen, please, to Mr. Deal.
okay, the list that Mr. Barton had sent me there earlier, last week, he sent an Excel spreadsheet also. And I updated the list. Description number 1, I assume that's something that you guys use. Cindy probably, that's her description that she sees, Larry. Description number 2, I actually went and put my own eyes on each meter. And you will see there, the first meter is McClure Kiwanis concession stand. And if I ain't mistaken, the funnel cake concession stand was originally owned by Clintwood Kiwanis. And then the Hayside Kiwanis purchased that, acquired that one from the Clintwood. So we just consider that funnel cake. That's what we sell out of it.
So, this-
McClure Quanah sells, who sells the funnel cake?
Hayside purchased or acquired the funnel cake concession stand. It's a small portable building from Clintwood Kiwanis.
It was previously a pizza.
Yeah, they brought, I remember the Quanahs when they brought
Yeah,
pizza
so
over there.
that's all on 1 meter, that little area.
and
right
how often is that used? And I know I said I was gonna shut up
Basically
and
during
listen
the
to
fair.
During the
you. Okay.
Yeah, and then the one that's highlighted in blue, you'll see that it just had Hayside Splash Dam Road. That meter was actually, a new meter was put in when the Kiwanis started the Mountaintop Campground. So the old meter was pulled out, the 658-967-539 meter is no longer in existence, and the Hayside Kiwanis Club is paying that account. Everything still associated with that account is coming to Hayside. I think Mr. Barton said that the last payment was in 2020.
October 2020, yes.
Okay, in
Cut off the
October
2020 off
So
the
that's
machine.
640,
That's the one that
06.
was, yeah.
That's not your bill anymore.
What all does that include on there?
That is the campground, basically along the
They ain't paying
fence
it,
on the back
we're not paying it, I
side.
don't care.
And it goes all the way down to the ag barn and the agriculture building. And I'm not sure those buildings could be on that. I'm not 100% positive because wires are just seem like going everywhere. But there are 2 or 3 different electrical distribution boxes for hookups, vendors, so on, that's still on that.
But you
We,
pay
Hayside
that.
Kiwanis pays that.
Thank you.
Yes.
But what about that there, the Hayside Kiwanis Park Road, What's that?
Well, that's just what I would assume Cindy uses, that's her.
That's what's on the
description.
bills from AEP
That's
is
what's
what their
on there.
description is.
Is that a light or what is it? Just,
That's just the description,
so that's nothing.
nothing really. I mean, that's what, the third, account down, that's the big stage grandstand. From what I can tell, that's operated off that 1 meter. The fourth one, 83006, Hayside Kiwanis Club. That is a storage building that's down by the softball, down below the clubhouse. That was originally like a picnic shelter, but it's basically, it stores, well, we've actually got the town of Hayside stage in it. There's several, just grounds equipment during the winter. That's what that houses.
That is
Lawnmower,
a,
tractor.
that's not the,
They
that,
very seldom everything, any electrical thing that's used down there, at the most, probably a light, maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah,
so that's the 83006, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Then you have the softball field, which has the batting cage and so on, the pickleball court, the lights, that's gonna be.
On the
all of
softball
that
field meter.
Yeah,
And let's just, and again, I'm eating my own words by saying be quiet, but our little league teams use that, don't they?
Yes.
they did, yeah. And if
Okay.
it was in.
And
more-
all county teams, to my understanding, play some games there, correct?
Yeah, and.
Thank you.
And from the way that, it's going now, I'm sure that could be used more often with the folks on this end of, or the Hayside end of the county. I've not talked to David Bryant on, he basically organizes that and does the maintenance.
Point being, does the Hayside Kiwanis have parties or have shindigs there, or is it used for the youth?
No,
It's used for the youth?
yeah,
Thank you.
we, several years back, we did have a member that, did sponsor a couple of softball tournaments.
Well, but-
Raznik's,
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
that.
The mixed ball.
we did that as a fundraiser.
The mixed
Yeah.
ball.
So, let me
But the
ask you-
majority of
But
it
the
is used
majority
for
of it is
youth
community,
athletics.
Yeah,
Are these
because
the
we
ones
go up there,
take?
several meetings and the,
That
Little League is
mixed
used-
ball is for fundraiser for somebody.
What's that?
That mixed ball is a fundraiser
The
for somebody.
pickleball?
No, it's
Mixed ball.
that mixed softball and,
Yeah, that's
they do
fundraiser.
those mostly for
Yeah,
fundraisers.
If somebody's sick or something, or
Yeah, they
whatever.
do, that's how
I
they
thought
do
the
it.
Little League was playing
My
a
friend plays
splashdown.
on those all the
Yeah,
time.
well, that's baseball up there and off softball is typically, at the Kiwanis.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So is that where the Hayside, I don't know where the Hayside field is. Is it up there at
It's right
the,
next to the Kiwanis building.
Oh, okay.
Sand Lake.
because we haven't played up there.
Why are they not playing it? Are they playing any ball down there at the dam?
Yes,
Yes.
Who
yeah.
plays there?
the girls, the
Hayside
boys.
Little League,
Well, I don't
baseball,
understand.
and
You say
soccer.
they're playing up here at the Hayside, at the Kiwanis Club.
No, they're practicing
They're
primarily.
practicing for primary.
We got a batting cage, indoor batting cage where they can come in and they've brought their whole teams in there. I've seen them in there. Everybody gets a turn of hitting the ball inside of the cage. And that's, the batting cage building is on the Kiwanis Park. Now, most of their games, I think they might have had one game last year up at the Kiwanis Park. But most of the games are at John Flanagan Dam.
Well, I don't understand why you're having to use two facilities.
Well,
If you got 5 or 6 teams, all of them trying to practice on one
One
field.
field, yeah.
you-
Well, I know they got lights at the one at the dam, right?
And you,
Who pays that? The one at the
Corps of
dam?
Engineers, I guess.
the Corps of Engineer owns it.
They got
The-
lights
We
up
pay.
there.
Well, we
they
pay
take-
those
Listen, we've been down there
Pay
a
the bills.
dozen times this year for softball.
at the dam.
At the
And
dam.
who pays those lights,
Yes.
Larry?
We do.
We
The
do.
hill
No, down at the dam.
at the
Yeah.
school.
All right,
Spillway,
all right,
yeah.
let's
Okay.
laser back in here.
yeah, and most of
hard
that
to
is Little
understand.
League.
Well, not really.
Yeah.
So
They
we,
use those fields down
the
there all the time.
The Kiwanis field and cage is totally distinct from the dam field.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the
It's just
Kiwanis,
utilized and used by our.
by the same people probably.
Right.
But the Kiwanis opens that up for any, but mostly Hayside, Little League
Yeah,
teams
that's right,
and
yeah.
kids. Kids being the center of word here.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that? Go.
All right, and then we'll, look down the next couple, meters, 83003 and 01. Those meters are side by side, and it's hard to distinguish what's going what, because both wires are going into one big distribution center. And you have the horse ring, the ticket booth, the barn, the exhibit building, the Hayside Kiwanis concession, the little stage, one storage, and the bathrooms. That's all on, you know, you could probably get an electrician up there and, you know, narrow it down, but just visually looking on the outside. So those 2 meters, those are probably your biggest expense, and there's probably more to it than what I've got written down, but that's what you can visually see. And I know there's several, lights in the area,
Several what?
lights, street lights.
Do you have freezers and everything up there in those things?
We do in that one storage, we, have freezers and, you know, you got the bathrooms and, you got
Water heaters.
water heaters.
Concession
Have
stand.
heaters in the
Concession
bathroom.
So your water stay all year
Both,
round?
and even the pizza.
It does because,
So you gotta
know,
heat it.
The grounds are open all through the fall and winter, the horse ring, it's all open, I mean.
It's open. I was up there not long ago and they said there was people up there riding the horse ring.
Yeah, that's what I've got a little bit more.
So Mr. Barton, is that,
I see people up there all.
does that correspond to being generally the highest bill
That one is,
on average?
Those
it
two-
is, I have that pulled up while we're talking.
So let's
here.
focus in, is there any other questions on that? Because that's the one that is the highest bill, so
Well, I do have a
Go
question. Mr. Barton, now we're hearing, you've tracked down the meters, and I kinda knew that, but some of that's changed because the campground was added, and I knew that was separated. But you track the bills. And just for instance, last meeting we discussed, $13,000 is what it costs for electricity for this property, all these meters, right? And one month, just looking at one high month, January was $1,700.
well, that's
That's
what
extremely
we're finding
high
out is
for-
what it's for. We
Yeah,
never
but-
know what it's for.
Well, but
What
17,
for?
think
Well, that's what we're
about,
trying to
Well,
get
they
to.
don't have horse shows up there in
So
January.
we have the
Have
facility,
heaters running in the
you got heaters running in the
restrooms.
restrooms
And
from
concession
water,
stand.
freezing, and we still have
January,
busted pipes because of freezing, because we keep.
well, and I understand you have to
Doesn't
keep
mean-
that, but the only thing that could possibly be going on during that time, and that's not the only month, but I'm using as an example, is you got campers, which is one of your fundraisers.
Yeah. And the only thing that would be, the campers would be the bathrooms. The
Yeah.
public bathrooms.
January, the horse rink was 667.71, and the one at the bathrooms is 327, so for January.
And you know, that's
for those
not
two.
bad keeping the cinder block building heated. Well, actually, 3 of them.
What was it during the fair?
What is fair, August?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have air conditioning. Right, there's no-
235 for the horse rink and 176 for the bathrooms.
Yeah.
But
And
during the fire, it was only 176 for what?
230.
Yeah.
235 for the horse rink and 176.20 for the second one with the bathrooms.
But there's no heaters running in
But you wouldn't have no
September.
heaters running in
So then
September.
we'll get over there, I mean.
Water heaters.
The highest bills are in times where there typically isn't much there.
Because
But that,
the winter
but you're
time.
running
you're-
heaters.
I know, and I've seen, as I indicated to you guys, I can remember being up there and seeing that gray building running continuously.
What kind of
with no
heat
insulation.
is in those?
Just like, well.
Like
the
what?
concession stand really doesn't have any heat, really.
We have, in the bathrooms, or restrooms, not bathrooms, those window units that were in the high school at Hayside.
Do you think we could, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have those, one in the men's room, one in the ladies. And then in their concession stand, we have 3 coolers, 1 freezer. And then we use some independent small heaters close to the water lines to try to prevent freezing.
Is there any way we could check to see if there's a more economical heater? Will y'all be willing to do that?
What's in them freezers during the winter time?
The two little heaters, if I may speak on
I'm
that.
just trying to get a compromise
Yeah.
here.
The
It's
two
hard.
little heaters that we're using to heat that building in the winter time are the little 110 heaters, the real small ones, probably 8-inch square that you buy at a local.
Well, you're in hardware. What, do you think there's another option that
Well,
could
you know, just
be a little
propane,
cheaper?
But even with propane, but I think as far as like utility bills, I don't think that would really affect it with the way we're
But
hitting
that's
it.
expensive, too.
Because, you know, the coolers are putting on, same as putting off enough heat.
Is there anything in the freezers?
Yeah, the.
Like what?
French fries.
French
Well,
fries,
that's-
hamburgers, that kind of stuff.
Can you just talk, you said you had how many freezers too?
We have one in the concession stand, and we have one in the storage.
You can't get all of it in one freezer now?
I mean, they are the ones that's not in use
Not when you're
or shut
preparing
down.
for something like the fair.
What
I
about the
know, but in the
coolers?
wintertime, we're not preparing for the fair.
Well, it won't have much, it'll only have whatever's left over from the fair.
Can't you have a freezer down there at your building, don't you?
Yeah, we actually have small, it's not
Yeah,
commercial
we-
size for that amount.
What about the coolers out at the truck pole, and then you have coolers inside the
There's
pizza
no coolers
place?
out the truck.
Did you guys pull those then?
We, the one in our concession trailer we take out there.
No, there was one, there used to be one in that little building.
Yeah,
Well,
no, there's not one
They're
there.
spending $12,000, it's once,
Okay.
well, they're using it for something. I mean, that's a lot of money, it's $1,000 a month, so
But that, most of it, I think, well.
what's the
if
most
it-
you think's using the most, money?
It would be right there. just
Right
for
there, them right there.
restrooms And so on, I'm sure that's your highest bills.
The restaurant.
And those
We had that
two,
week of real cold.
and then if we move on.
We haven't had cold, real cold winters.
We
How
had
do you
8
think, Jason,
days
you
of
could
0
reduce
winter.
that?
Yeah, Jason, you know a lot about that stuff.
What's that now?
How could we reduce that? And could we help you figure out how to reduce
We-
that
I
to
think
approve this
just-
lease?
It's been on
Don't do that
timers?
by propane or, you know, just wall heaters, propane heaters. But I don't know how safe that would be in a public.
Is there
restaurant.
insulation problems or?
Well, you're thinking all these public buildings typically are just cinder block buildings. I mean, when you take a restroom, the door may be open, but I shut it.
So-
Is there any way you can put them on a thermostat so that they would come on at a certain, like if
They
it
are
gets
They
below,
are.
They're all thermostat.
if it gets
No.
below what, does it come on?
Typically, those restrooms used to always be shut down during the winter. It only started when you guys added the campers.
What?
So does the campers use those?
They do, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same seal, I
Well,
mean,
The public uses it too.
what do you think of a compromise of some sort of, you all sharing that winter expense on that particular meter?
we'll get there whenever
Okay.
I start going.
Go ahead.
And then.
Anybody have any other questions on that piece?
On that piece.
Go ahead.
Then the 05208, the gray building, that's across from the concession stand. That's basically an open shell building that the fair uses, community organizations, the Primitive Baptist hold their association there. So it's a community building there. It's an open building that can be used for anything. Then the motocross and truck pool, that's the meter that's out on the end. And that's basically the lights that takes care of that. 2 buildings on it, which there's no coolers or anything. It's just, I assume, minimum bills with some lighting. And then the 9 lights at the outdoor light, and that's just throughout fairgrounds. Just basically everywhere.
I got a question.
Um,
Mr. Barton,
Yes,
do you have what the meters were in January?
I do, yes.
So like that gray building, what'd we look at there, if we could work from the bottom up?
So the gray building,
Which meter, which account number are we talking?
if we work from the bottom up, the 9 lights in January were $184.
The next,
The motocross truck pool was $38.15.
which I expected,
The gray building was $39.12.
which is good, that's a lot better.
And then next, the concession stand, little stage, $327.
So 83, 830.01, and 830.03 are what we're talking
Yeah,
about here.
and the 03 is gonna be $667.71 for the horse rink. And then above that, the softball field and batting cage was $9.90. And then above that, the storage building and picnic shelter, ends at 06.
Does the adjacent months like December and
One
So
eighty.
far, he
February
ain't hitting
look
on no
similar?
big numbers.
I mean,
is
it's
all.
181.59.
Well, yeah, they'll get
For the one that ends at 06 for the
83.03,
storage.
830.03,
667,
830.01.
so you're getting over 1,000.
181.59.
What about
And
the
then looking
adjacent
on,
months there,
well, let me
winter
get
time?
these here first here. The next one up is gonna be the big stage, and the grandstand was $242.35. And then lastly, the concession was $25.09 for January. Now adjacent months, like on the
For the big concession stand, it was
What's that total up to
$25.
be right there? That's the month of
$25.09,
what?
the very top one. I'm sorry,
What's that, the month of what for these?
it's all for January.
Oh, that was the
That's what you
McClure
get.
one.
Yes,
That was the
McClure.
McClure one.
Uh-huh,
And the funnel cake, yeah.
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 Now, you'd ask for the similar months on each side, is that what you'd ask for?
Well, what I'm saying, are they looking comparable? Because that's a time of year that stuff shouldn't be used.
The month before, like in December, for the highest one, the horse rink was $488.20, and the month after in February was $655.56, so.
What's running down at the horse rink that would be,
Jason.
I would say
well,
five.
the horse rink's just lights, isn't it?
Just lots, yeah.
Don't
It's
have one for
$400.
But it's,
Which is horse
it's
rink,
more
ticket
things.
booth,
It's
barn, and
Ticket
exhibit
booth,
barn.
Yeah.
That's the
barn,
two.
and the
Got
exhibit
it, got it. That's what I was missing.
That's what you,
Yep. Sorry, I wasn't looking.
Jiminy. Oh,
Yeah, that's, those two.
we're trying to
meters
answer
there-
these questions that you've had for 4 years. If you listen to him, he just told you what's on the horse ring one for 3 times.
I know it's on the paper, but I was
But he told you
asking-
too. You've asked these for 4 years and he's answering it. What else is on the horse ring meter?
Well, those 2 meters there, I'd have to have
Well,
electrician to, but the 600, well, you got $994.71 in those 2 combined meters. And that's basically everything that has water. I mean, you have,
And he,
the concession stand, just like all those we mentioned. And that's basically taking care of the fairgrounds, the lighting. And I even see some of those lightings going down Spearhead Trail down where the go-kart track was. I mean, all of that is run off those 2
So it's
meters.
obvious the issue here is the restrooms where the heat run in the winter,
restroom.
where you all are
Where we
making
have
money
water.
from the campground. Where can we compromise on that?
All right.
is that fair enough? That's your problem, the campground, right?
No, what I'm trying to say, this is a big industrial complex they built, and we're sustaining it all.
That's the only community place in the entire Sand Lake district. I
No,
would give
they're-
anything to have that in my district,
They're going to eventually have the Sand Lake Elementary School.
But there's nothing there yet.
We
This
have,
is the only place that
the
community
pickleball
has.
court, which I'm sort of interested in. What, do you have, can you use those tennis courts up there for that?
Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah,
wanting
you
to do.
can.
I mean, we've already got the structure
Yeah,
there,
they
it just
did
needs to
over
be
in
revamped and
Southern
updated and some maintenance.
So how much does it cost to put in a pickleball court?
That's
We've
already been.
already approved it.
Well, I'm just interested, I can't remember
We
that far
approved it
back.
contingent on a lease.
I know.
You're
but
right, and that's what we're trying to get done.
We don't have a leash yet. I'm concerned, I went down to Sand Lake Elementary and they don't have no playground.
No, they
Who
don't.
has a playground?
We do. And if we can move on.
Well, a
which
lot
I
of
have
people
some-
don't want to come up on top of that ridge. They'd like to play there at Sand Lake
Well, we
Elementary.
have plenty here. If we can move on from what the county is paying, I'll let you know.
Well, I think, Josh, you need to be a little bit tolerant of what we're trying to get at. It's not, I represent the Clintwood district and I don't think the Clintwood Kiwanis Club gets one dime from us.
Well,
But McCurry, McClure, and Hayside, and we're giving you guys a lot of money.
all right.
Is that not true?
That's $13,000, right, Larry, what you guys
Give or take last year, I think
give or
that's what
take
it was.
$13,000. As far as the community park itself, the Kiwanis Club itself, we're out with DSA sewer, which is a pump and haul situation, which we got that fixed. AEP and our nationwide account. Out of the 28 members up there, in the last 12 months, we paid out $21,637 just to maintain that facility up there.
That's what we pay.
Oh. Your Kiwanis Club did.
They
How much
want-
again?
So how did you get the pump storage fixed?
21,637.
They hooked on public sewer, didn't
We hooked on public sewer through.
Cause it
the-
goes right
And
down
where'd you
through
get the
there.
money for that?
We secured a grant to the Cumberland Plateau Water.
How much was that grant?
Wastewater treatment grant program.
Yeah, how much was that?
The grant was for $100,000, and we were able to put
Okay.
in the sewer line from campground to the main line coming out of the jail. Went
Mhm.
straight to the,
What about the campgrounds? You got a grant for that too, didn't you?
From Visita.
You got,
For the
you
campgrounds?
got something from VCD, you got that,
we got VCTA grant to install the water for the campground. And then we got another grant through the wastewater program to install the lines for the sewer line for the campground. And then the third grant we got was for the connection to the main line. We had to go about
What was the dollar value of each of
6/10
these
of a mile,
grants?
I think. Say what?
What was the dollar value of each of these grants?
35,000 from VCTA, 65,000 from wastewater, and then this last one was 100,000.
Okay.
And you spent all that?
Yep. And then every dime.
And again, I'm gonna ask you, how much does it cost to put a pickleball court in?
Larry, please tell Ms. Celeste what we voted on the contract.
Roger Rice and ask him,
I've
they
got-
have
I've
one
got-
over
We did, I
at.
think it's
uh,
just-
We've already
Every
voted on
4,000.
it, guys.
Okay.
Tell him what we voted on, what
Josh,
you
we
voted
didn't write
on.
to ask
And
for
they
something in the
say that
past.
there's
think it's about
numerous people
$35,000.
from the state
$35,000.
How much?
About 35,000.
What's that?
Well, I got a group from Hayside
And
that's
that
asked
girl,
to put a
that boy told
pickleball
me
court
that
up on Rose
people
Ridge.
from Hayside are over there until they lock the gate of the night.
I'm sorry, Shelby, was you saying something? Were you saying something? Go ahead.
I saw him, about the pickleball.
But I'm talking
Call
about,
Roger Rice
Did
and
we-
ask him how
I've
much it was.
asked, and
Jason,
then
did we
I
let you
asked
explain
to.
everything? Are you
I'll
done?
see Roger
Well,
the 31st, I'll ask him.
You know, I have a printout, actually, I'll give Larry, I'll email him a copy of it, of what we actually paid in power bills, so on, but like the campground account, you guys have to think also, in January, well, $1,000.
You had
The
that
power
week
bill.
of real cold weather.
Well, we
too.
had a few campers.
It was
but
full
then in
when I took off.
September, you know, we're at 871. And when the fair was there, you know, the average bill runs around 550. But, you know, when all of the meters start running, you know, when
During
fair
the,
time or whatever.
Jason, when you have campers there, you're charging them enough
Yeah.
to cover all that, aren't you?
Yeah, we,
Okay.
you know.
How much
Then
is
let's
it?
figure out a compromise.
and
Well, what's
then,
your compromise?
Hey, ask
You
him-
didn't
Well, I'm waiting for Jason to get done, then I would like to talk.
Okay, all
All right,
right.
go ahead.
So, you know, with what we're putting out in the community parks and the end, I think we're pretty well running even. You know, to keep the pickleball court, you know, and everything else being $21,000, you know. That the 28 members is putting out with all fundraisers and so on. You know, they may have something in mind.
The money allocated for the pickleball court is part of the joint project to upgrade and repair the tennis courts that exist there. And then we're gonna take one of the tennis courts and make 2 pickleball courts out of it. There's 3 courts there altogether, but the surface is cracked and faded and needs painting and needs a lot of attention. And the bids that we got to do that, we just don't have the funds to do it.
Well, what were the bids? What was the bid to redo the tennis courts.
The one that was awarded was in the neighborhood of 35, is that correct, Larry? 35,000?
35,000
So
for me.
forgive my impatience, Rhonda, but Mr. Yates
Well, I know that.
presented this to us and we voted to approve it.
I don't have your photographic memory.
Well, it's not photographic, but the whole point, if I can reel us back in here, is we voted at an ARPA workshop.
And I don't regret it.
Just let me finish. We voted to approve this project, which included the pickleball courts, with concrete estimates at the time. Then, that vote was made contingent upon a lease. Since then, Mr. Peters, somewhat unilaterally, instructed Mr. Barton to present them with a lease that they disagreed with. They come back with their terms, and they've negotiated, we've negotiated, and so the $35,000 award that we voted on, you voted on, I voted on for the courts has been held up in limbo, awaiting this lease. And it has appeared to me from our dialogues previously that the power bills have always been an issue. So I asked Mr. Deal to come and have the information for each and every meter to know what is being used. My whole desire, and Mr. Deal, Mr. Yates is to move this pickleball project along. And let's approve a lease.
I agree.
So,
Are you done?
So, I was gonna try to answer, Rhonda's
Okay.
question there. but,
go ahead, Mr.
We
Yates.
did, 35,000
Oh, okay.
includes
We'd
the
already
tennis
voted.
court repair and the pickleball.
Which, that's the most expensive thing. is
And an
repairing-
ADA swing.
repairing the tennis court, right? Because, the way I understand pickleball, I've never watched it, I don't know anything about it, but it's smaller squares,
Small.
and you have paddles
Small.
in the net.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is the pay, doing your pay.
Mr. Barton, would you care, before Mr. Peters
Thank you
goes,
for
to
answering that.
And,
update the board on the leases, the different language, and how all
What
that
is it
come
you don't
about?
agree on, Lee?
I can't with
Unless Mr. Barton's
We're
gonna,
satisfied with the lease, the way Mr. Barton has it presented here tonight.
can you just, let's rewind and tell us where we've been and where we are?
Sure. When we started, after we met, originally for the ARPA workshop, the regular meeting, whatever it was, and, you know, we're gonna do a lease. I shared with them a copy of the McClure River lease for reference. I met with Mr. Yates and Mr. Hay, and we talked about some things that they wanted, wanted us to consider insurance and consider mowing costs at that time. And, we were back and forth and worked with Mr. Sturgill on the lease and getting drafts. Mr. Peters and I talked about the lease and things, and we talked about putting a cap on the amount originally, and then Mr. Peters said, well, it's hard to enforce, maybe we can just do a fixed amount on the lease, and we put $1,000 to start initially on that. So then it was proposed $1,000, and then also we'd reach out to the fair committee, which I'm getting ahead of myself, I guess, but since any issues that they had that needed to put in the lease to ensure that they had the space, Mr. Peters asked me to reach out to them. We verified that the items they wanted in, and we put that in. That was all kind of the second draft, I guess. The first would have been just a copy of the McClure, and then we had this draft. Then from there, we met. Mr. Evans had called a meeting last Friday, and at that meeting was Mr. Deal, Mr. Yates, Mr. Hay, Mr. Carl Mullins. I was there in person, and Mr. Evans participated by phone, and we went through everything in the lease line by line. I guess I skipped a part. They'd actually sent a proposal back to us in item 3, I guess the third draft of the lease, that would have been going back to us paying the utilities and what we have been and what's in our current budget. And I think there's also asked for the insurance, I think, on that, and then the handicap of the accessibility of the whole park. And so we went through each item that they had, that we had, and we tried to come to something that we thought would be a compromise that might be able to fit in the box. I don't know if that answered your question, Mr. Evans.
No, it does. I just
Okay.
wanted us to come where we are.
May I
Go ahead,
go?
Mr. Peters.
Okay. This started, because when I did the tally of the bills, it was $14,000 that year. This is a while back. Now, you recently told us it was $13,000 last year. So I'm gonna go ahead and explain some things. Because we're trying to invest in the fair, which was a failure. We're putting quite a bit of money in it. We're trying to make that work. Some of the stuff that's gone wrong in the past is there's been a monopoly on who and what vendors could come and all that. We need this fair to succeed if we want to keep it, and we need it to be sustainable to some degree. And that means you got to be good partners for that. And the part of this lease was geared towards making it more official, like the McClure lease is. I'm not saying that's perfect, but that's always been under lease. This has been just a free haul. No one knew what was going on. Now, so I'm gonna read something. During our last ARPA meeting, and this gets into specifics of what you were asking, Rhonda, we approved $34,045 for the tennis courts and to convert one or so to pickle courts, and another $3,000 for a handicap swing. I felt it was important. I voted yes to that too, because I felt we're doing it all around the county. The Hayside community deserves to have some. But my one thing, and I asked you that, David, and you answered it, need to make sure it's public access. So part of this is to make sure that that lease shows that there's public access.
Be no problem.
It was conditioned on us getting a lease with Kiwanis to ensure that public access to these assets and to include the fair. So we needed some agreement about the fair. If that's gonna be the host area for the fair, we have a and I already said we have a similar. Now, on the regular meetings in July, during last month's meeting, it was stated last year the county paid 13,000 electric bills. We've already covered that. January bills total 1,700 during a time when nothing's really going on except your operation, which you should be or getting them to reimburse us for that. Because if they need all that heat in those bathrooms at that time, that's really your cost to run your business. Now, $1,700 during that month. There have been some excessive water leaks, and Shelby can talk to this, where PSA physically came out and shut the water off and then watched before they even left you guys turn the water back on. So kind of what I was looking for is to incentivize you guys to make sure you click the power off when it's not needed and stuff like that. Same thing with the water. When my water goes out at my house, I have to go without water till PSA fixes it. Because they can't just, they're paying for that. They can't just let the water run on the ground. That's happened, I think, twice. One time it was 90,000 gallons.
It was a hobby.
Then the intent of the lease I covered is to have you guys shut off or kind of take on some responsibility for those utilities. I thought the original lease that he had, $1,000 a month, was being pretty fair for all that stuff that we're paying for. And at the end of the day, I'll be fine with whatever this board decides, but then I'm gonna ask you to give $10,000 to Clintwood Kiwanis, $10,000 to Clinchco Kiwanis. Both the Lions Club deserve it, and maybe even the VFW. Are we willing to do that? Because we're giving to this is to a private organization. And we're trying to work a deal so that we can accommodate the fair. Now, I quit reading this because it's pretty much a lot of this we've talked to and you've answered the question. But in this, you guys have been adding to this park and you keep adding, and with the idea that the county picks this up. And that's gotta be curtailed because we're $100,000 out of budget right now already a month later, and we're gonna be adding to that after tonight. We went to the fair committee, he did, and he asked for some things to ensure that the fair could run smoothly and the campers were moved out in a timely fashion. And you guys kind of stripped most all that language out of the lease, so none of that's in there. This was kind of an agreement for $12,000. We expect to have the facilities for a week. Am I understanding that right? Roughly a week. It may be a little longer.
About a week, so.
So, in this, I remember you've been, in the last month's minutes, Josh, you've been so gung-ho to say yes to this. You even said, we're gonna approve this. You told us, we're gonna approve this. And all I'm asking is for us to officially set something up. And let's be fair about it. I think $12,000 is a fair number.
So in five.
And, well, I'm not done yet. And then, as you indicated, who was in the negotiations with you?
There's the two gentlemen here, Mr. Jason Deal, Mr. David Yates, Mr. Charles Hay, and Mr. Mullins, Mr. Carl Mullins. I was there in person, Mr. Evans participated by phone.
So, you participated in this, Josh. And my trouble is, you're negotiating on our behalf, I thought, but it appears you're negotiating on the behalf of the Kiwanis Club. I have to ask, the public would probably ask this, is this more about Charles Hay hanging your sign on his wall? Or is it about us trying to take care of our county? Because the value, I mean, we're paying for this, and we've got to start, you guys are gonna, you three are more than likely gonna win this election, because no one's running against you, or one's running against Peggy. You're gonna face this demon next year, so it's time to start. Do you want to keep raising taxes when it starts rolling, or do you want to curtail expenses? That was the whole point of all this. And the other part of getting this fair running was to give them something so that your facility would be utilized and you guys get to run your concession as a fundraiser. But right now, I can tell you, when I look at what I see come across Facebook, and I don't look that often, I see a lot of stuff from Clintwood Kiwanis that goes out to the community, and there's a couple members there. I see a lot of things from Clinchco Kiwanis. Lions Club, I know, does an Easter egg hunt. I don't see much of that on Facebook, but and that's donating back to the children
You're gonna do the
and
Easter egg hunt
stuff.
also.
But primarily, you guys are running truck shows, or truck polls and horse shows and those kind of events, and in the past, sometimes concerts, and those are good in the sense that it provides entertainment to the community. But let's be frank, those are fundraisers for you. And you guys are, this is just something I said when I was a member of the club. You guys have got more than you can maintain. As you indicated, there's things that you have to fix in that. That bathroom bill, really, in those months, is all yours.
Are there nothing in here on the fair?
You done?
Section 5.1.
So who gave you the authority to put $1,000 in the lease?
Section
I see.
5.1.
Where did you get that authority?
I didn't.
Who told you
I
to
gave
put-
him my suggestion.
Who told
Well,
you-
actually, he gave me
Who told
my
you to
suggestion.
put $1,000 in the lease?
Ron and I talked about
Was
it.
there a
as
vote
far
by
as
the board?
No.
Who done it?
I put it in the lease.
But
Ron
who
and I
told
talked
you
about
to?
it. Well, we talked about the.
Yeah.
Did I tell you to?
No,
Did the board vote to tell you to put it in there?
no.
So who told you to put it in there?
Just discussions that Ron and I
It's
had.
a lease.
So
that's being
how do you speak for this whole board?
I don't. It's
Thank
a
you.
lease that's
Okay.
intended to be negotiated.
By the who?
The board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And when did the board
Did
vote?
you-
When did the board vote for
Did you get permission
$1,000?
from the board to sit
Did
in on
you?
that meeting and strip
Did you?
everything out?
Did you?
I just made my
Oh.
suggestions when Larry suggested, sent
$1,000
his draft. And when he came in, so it's not me trying to make something final.
Oh, it's not you taking out your political vindictiveness on Mr. Hay and Mr.
No, it
Yates?
isn't.
Oh,
It has about you
okay.
selling us out so you can
Well,
hang
we're
a
gonna
campaign
have to
sign.
vote. You're gonna have to vote at some point.
Well,
And,
I speak?
Yeah, that's
Or Jason, you got
Mr.
something you want to say,
yeah,
honey?
well, he mentioned going in, I was just sitting here just thinking, putting notes together. In May, which we're coming up to school year, we put out $500 into the scholarship to the Key Club. We actually had a fundraiser that was all donated back to the Hayside Rescue Squad. That was in July, if I'm not mistaken, Terry. That was $560. So what expense we ate, we ate the expense, but we gave all the income, to the rescue squad, we just spent $453 on a yard of concrete that went in for the merry-go-round, the playground. And so everything that we raise is going into maintaining like the community, centers that everyone has access to. I mean, you know, it's, the entire place is open to the community. The week before the Wise County, Fair Horse Show, I can't recall the exact numbers, but we had 18 or 19 horse trailers on Thursday night. And that was the week before the Wise County Fair Horse Show. Just Thursday night, past Thursday, we had 8 horse trailers. So anytime you come up there on a Thursday night, that place is gonna be, you know.
I don't know why they don't have more horse shows up there.
So the
Well,
question
that's actually
is,
just practice, using the
I know,
facility.
but they only have one horse show a
We only
year.
have one horse show.
You
So
could
the-
make money if you had more than one horse.
so the question is, do we want to approve this lease?
And
Do you
so-
want to
My-
approve
my-
a different lease, or do we want to just forget it?
And then
Those are the 3 options.
Well,
consider the
my,
fair, that was all those line items in there about the fair, we do have it in there that they'll be using the premises 2 weeks, the campers will be, I'm not sure if the campers.
That was gonna be my question to
But
you.
anyway, you know,
Does
we feel
5.1 not
that's
satisfy you?
an agreement between the fair, because the fair's not you guys. The fair committee, because there's an entire group of folks that's on the fair committee or fair board, and that agreement that would be, you know, with them. And so just make this lease simple, that's the reason we did that.
well, I'm gonna ask you, you're asking for something else. You're asking for the cover the liability and to make it handicap accessible, is that true?
Well, we took the
Yeah,
handicap,
Ms. Sussbach, I can answer that. What we're doing on that is the same thing we're doing for McClure.
Exact same
And
line.
how much is that gonna cost us?
Our
this board?
liability policy will extend to them, and chances there'll be little to no cost on that with Vacor. They'll just receive an additional certificate of insurance for that.
And that's what
liability
happens
extending.
when you're in a lease,
So-
whereas if you weren't in a lease.
If we do this for, if we give them the liability and the handicap, that, you're saying that won't cost us anything?
The liability should not. I mean, there'll probably be a small cost with our insurance, but it'll be very minimal. And then on the handicap, what we're doing is, they've already done to the best of their ability, everything they have now is pretty well handicap accessible. And all we're agreeing to in the lease is that any modifications that we might do, or that we might make, then we have to ensure that those are handicap accessible. It's not changing anything that they've already done or taking any responsibility for
So
anything
if
they've already done.
McClure, are they asking for the same thing, or have they already got the same thing?
McClure's lease is the same exact thing on the insurance. There's no difference on the insurance, and then on the McClure, it just states in there that we would be responsible for ensuring that it's handicap accessible, but it's just smaller as
Do
well as
we
many
pay for
buildings. as
McClure's,
anything.
anything for McClure?
I'm sorry,
We
How
pay
much do
about
we pay for-
9,000.
9,000 for McClure.
9,000?
for
Yeah,
their
And Cleveland
utilities.
gets this?
But
yeah.
we're not leasing a facility from Clinton.
We're not leasing.
Yeah,
I
but
know,
they're-
it's
they're
not
doing
fair.
charity in the
This is a private
community.
organization. Like Josh said, if we're gonna take on the Kiwanis, we might as well take on the Lions Club. But I understand your point. Hayside down there is sort of like a community up there, and it's a good place
It
for
is.
people to
It's-
go.
they- yeah,
on
let-
Sun-
and
yes,
that-
They
yes.
let organizations
we
use
are a
it.
private organization.
But
keeping
I'm
that
just sorta-
community Center open, cause
Yeah.
like I say, if we had, you know, support from you guys.
And
The
all,
more support, the more that we can put back into the community.
all I was trying to do is
Well, we
put,
supported you.
Oh, yeah, you are, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
The more
but
support we get,
we've been
the more
supporting you
we
for
can put
years.
Back in ourselves.
hey, all I was trying to do is incentivize you guys to control that power. And what you did was you added those air conditioning units, those bathrooms and heaters, and that's a time where that typically would have been shut off. That's normally, that's for your business.
Incentivize.
We'll do
We want to
that.
incentivize you.
We will, yeah.
Who's
So-
the president down there?
Well, and then also on the fair,
that was-
what did they take out of the lease? Cause they
Yeah, I
stripped a
know
lot
who
of the
is.
stuff that
You
the
look
fair
like-
requested out.
See if I've got that
You
with me,
could
but-
be
Because
more
I don't have-
diligent,
and if we could.
in the wintertime
Mr.
especially.
Chairman,
And we run by our minimum.
because
Mr.
our winters have not, you must agree, they're not what they used to
No,
be.
no.
So, you know,
Those heaters were only used in the
Probably-
concession stand for like that week.
if you
It
did
was
due
done well.
diligence, it probably wouldn't be more than $12,000 a year, no way, right?
Go ahead, Terry.
How much money you making off those campers? Are you doing pretty good with those?
Just basically taking care of the power bill that comes through there and just maintenance, I mean,
What do you charge them at the park up there?
monthly.
$375 a month.
You need to keep in
When I was
mind
up there, it was full.
you need to keep in mind, there's another business out there doing that.
Do you ever
And they
go
have to
on?
compete. They don't get free electricity
No,
on
they
that.
don't. I went down there too, and they
We're
was
paying
full.
that electricity.
We pay that electricity.
I've got.
Well, I know you're not paying for the bathrooms,
Except for the
Terry.
campground.
Well, for the campground.
And that's really a high cost in the winter.
I can tell you one thing will help on
Okay.
electricity costs.
Mr. Barton's got some things.
We can cut the lights off. I know how to do that.
Mr. Peters, you'd asked about what was in there for the fair that was.
Well, we
taken
gotta
out.
have lights up there. That's
Say,
still in
let's
favor
ask
of.
for these.
Mr. Barton's
Right.
talking.
The lessee shall have the right to choose the desired week to schedule the Dickinson County Fair each year. For the week of the fair and the week leading up to the fair, lessor agrees to remove all campers and their personal belongings from the campground area for the purpose of placing rides and other necessary equipment for the fair. Lessee shall have the right to use any portion of the premises for the purposes of conducting the fair, as well as the use of sound equipment, lighting, and other items needed for the fair. Lessee shall not be charged any additional fees or costs for utility usage during the week of the fair. Lessee shall have the right to operate their concession stand lessor shall have the right to operate their concession stand during the fair with no setup fees due to lessee. In addition, lessee will be permitted to allow other food vendors to set up and sell concessions during the week of the fair. Lastly, the lessor agrees that public access, well, that's still in there, will not be denied.
But everything that he said is covered.
And so what we did on this in this lease is it states that they can use the fair. And what this gentleman had mentioned when we met that day is the fair is a separate entity from the county and they needed to negotiate an agreement with them.
We're the ones funding this. We should be setting that.
Setting what?
We're the ones funding the fair. The fair committee was appointed by this board of supervisors. We should be, this lease should cover that stuff
We're
for
not
the fair.
We're not we help. We're not completely funding it.
Yeah, but we've done more than they've ever
Well,
seen. in
yeah, I
the
know,
time
but
I've been here.
our congregation gave the fair this past week, $500 for the handicap, for the disability day.
Yeah.
And my myself gave $500 to the fair, because I want to see it succeed. And when I went up there though, you know, you guys are not doing a good job of maintaining it. You don't cut the weeds. They was that high around that horse ring, and y'all got a nice horse
You
ring.
go back over now.
Yeah,
Have you
it's
cut
steady
it?
work.
Y'all got a nice horse ring. I mean, it's really bigger than the one down here at Powell River.
Well, just like I said, we had 28 members and probably.
Is that all you got now, sweetie?
28 members, and I want to say 10 of them actually are capable of working. I mow the horse ring
Probably 5.
myself.
It's the same, you right out the jails right out there. You ought to get them out of jail, come out there and mow you.
You go ahead and try.
All right.
Mr.
So, all right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I
ma'am.
speak?
Please, yes.
And may I go through the proper channels to speak? and
Yes,
get
go
your,
ahead.
Approval? I want to ask two questions. One is, you do pay the $225 insurance from PSA, right? To
Yes.
protect you from leaks. I want to ask that. And also, I want to make a statement on the lease. We have discussed moving the fair at numerous times since I've been on the board. And this is a 10-year lease, and I know this lease is a little bit different than McClure, because you all are in business, and McClure only gets their money from the concession. That's the only thing I think they do is the concession. And anyway, the 10 years, I would like to move it to a 5 because it says in here we can give you 90-day notice and change it anyway. But for me, I would be happy with 3 to 5 year lease rather than a 10. Since you all are in business, I have no problem with supporting you.
What do you think about that?
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me
Yes,
speak.
ma'am. You have anything else?
No, that was the two questions I wanted to
Our
ask.
first draft, we had even talked about
Originally
5 years.
5 years.
So that would be fine. You want to make a motion? Or
Oh, I would like to make a motion that we change it to 5 years. If
any
that's
other
okay.
changes?
No, that's all I had any concern with was the 5 years. Because we have, ever since I've been on the board, discussed moving the
And
fair.
I'll second it. Any other discussion on this lease?
Y'all have any problem with that?
So we have a motion by Ms. Willis to, as the only amendment to the lease as presented, to a 5-year term rather than a 10-year term. I have seconded. Ms. Willis, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Ms. Sluss? Ms. Kaiser?
Aye.
Mr. Peters?
I have to vote nay because there is nothing tying hands on how much power they use, and this bill's gonna grow. They've shown that. It's grown since I came into this.
Anything, go, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yep.
cut you off.
Mr.
Anything else?
Chairman,
No.
also, we forgot that in, I think it's January, we had 8 days that it didn't go below, getting above 32, is that correct? Cause
That's right.
everybody's bill went
Everybody
up
might
in
That's when we
January.
used those heaters during that week and a half span, and after that,
Yeah,
we didn't.
I mean, ours at church run constantly.
Yeah, you're right.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Have anything
Oh, no,
else? I vote yes, Ms. Clerk, so it passes 4-1. Let's get some pickleball courts built, please. That brings us back to item 7, new business budget amendment, Mr.
Wait,
Martin.
before we leave this, I do want to make note that this board should consider, if you're gonna do this for Hayside McClure, you should consider everything Clintwood do.
Not just Clintwood, Clinchco, and both Clintwood and Clinchco on the Lions Club.
You know I had.
Maybe the VFW
Clintwood
too.
doesn't do a lot of activities.
Well, they had, they used
They
a little
do.
league fell up
Well-
here Saturday that had a cruise in, and they're gonna have
We
another one.
got a item at 13, other business. Let's take it up then.
Release.
Let's move this agenda along.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Is the lease approved?
Yes, sir, it's approved.
Yeah.
So Mr. Barton will be able to work with Mr. Honaker and let's start building something.
Just hope y'all
Well,
do
let
due
me
diligence.
ask one thing. Her motion was to change in the lease from 10 years to 5 years, but do we actually need a vote to approve the lease?
Which we
I
didn't
thought that was
do.
part of it.
Yeah, the vote was-
Okay,
Yes, I
okay.
thought it was
Okay.
released at 5-year term.
Okay,
so.
Oh, I was gonna mention one thing.
Just checking.
Because
Shelby,
it was with no other changes.
when you mention
Okay.
that there's insurance, but that still, they shouldn't be turning the water back on after you see there's a leak. That could hurt our.
We like to
They were
address
valves
that.
cut
Go
off
ahead.
before it was turned back on.
What's that?
They were valves cut off that stopped the leak before it was turned back on. They turned it back on to find out where it was at, and then we cut
The
it back
report
off.
we got from our PSA rep was it was running.
It was running.
Go ahead, Ms.
And then
James.
they came and got a reduction on their,
There also was a leak at that trailer that is stationed there, and you thought it might be confused with.
Somebody live in that trailer?
Well, we have 3 meters at the top of the hill. 2 of them go to the Kiwanis facilities, one to the restrooms at the batting cage, and 1 meter that goes to our clubhouse. The other meter goes to the residence that's.
At the trailer,
right beside
Terry
the-
Bartley,
Yeah, Terry Bartley's.
Barton, I mean.
Is he on
He
that
had a
land,
leak.
or does he
He had
pay
a-
rent, or what does he do?
Well, he had a leak at that time.
Okay, all right.
And our thinking is, I mean, they contacted Bill Branham, our groundskeeper, and he and I went and searched all of our lines going to the lower level. He crawled all the way up under the building, traced it all the way back out. We could not find any leak whatsoever.
it was on your all's bill because Charles came and we reduced the bill. That was before we had the insurance, and we gave, I think you had to pay half price
I'm
on it.
not familiar with that case.
Yeah, it was.
I was in Kiwanis
It was
when
your
the
all's
one big
bill at
leak
that
happened.
time.
I was in Kiwanis when the one big leak happened, that was 90,000 gallons, and she was upset because they said they watched you guys turn it back on. That was,
No, now, that was
That don't
PSA
sound-
workers.
yeah.
Yeah, we reduced your bill, because I
Well,
was on
you
the
all are,
board when we did.
y'all gotten a lot of things going on up there and open to the public, and I appreciate
I
that.
do too.
And
Jason,
thank
you
you
run a
for,
business all day, you volunteer your time up there, you don't gain anything from being here and dealing with this, thank you.
thank you for letting the fair be up there too.
All right, new business 7A, Mr. Barton.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you have before you a proposed budget amendment for the FY '24 budget. The total amendment amount is in the total amount of $140,122. You've got all the detail here, but basically in summary, we received additional monies from the regional jail from less capacity last year than anticipated. We got $46,880 additional revenue from that. The sheriff's office is, they received, as our June meeting, you all approved them hiring an additional SRO officer, money for that, about $68,000 in grant funding. And then they asked last month, and it was voted on, to apply for the rural development grant in the amount of $25,000. So that's the total income of $140,122 added. On the expense side, again, you've got the expenses for the additional SRO that was approved in June, the $50,000 for purchasing the additional car, that's a 50-50 match. Also, the VACOR for the county went up $6,000 more than I estimated, as did the IDA by $6,000. With all that, we had the additional revenue. We had to take an additional $10,000, a little over $10,000 out of the reserve for contingencies. So I'll answer any questions anyone has on this budget amendment.
I just got a
Go ahead.
comment.
Sorry.
This is why I voted no on that budget, because you could see, we didn't even get 5 minutes out of approving the budget, and we were already spending more money, 100,000 plus.
What is this budget amendment?
Ms. Cluss
What
has
is
a question.
budget amendment for, Larry?
This budget amendment is, mainly we had to do it for the two changes with the sheriff's department last month when you all approved them applying for the rural development grant. They have to have a copy of our budget showing that we've budgeted for our portion of the car before they can apply.
Okay.
And so $25,000 would be grant funding and $25,000 from the county funding. As I mentioned a minute ago, we also had the additional SRO that was hired with the SRO grant they received from the state. And in June, that was approved at the budget, and then the additional money that came in from the regional jail, acknowledging receipt of that, $46,880.
Also, Mr. Barton, Dwayne Mott asked me, and you know the auditors are making them report how they spend that $30,000 from Coal Road and Guys.
Correct.
And he says it's for sewer, water, and they have public sewer, they have public water, and their roads are maintained mostly by VDOT. And he asked if we could do it out of our general fund, and then us keep the $30,000 from the Coal Road and Guys, just swap it till, they always use it just as their general fund.
Right.
Because they don't have any water and sewer or anything to apply for, because it's all public down there.
Isn't that all supposed to be for expanding those, not operations?
It generally is for, of course, maintaining, if you have to resurface
Now, the roads, it's
road,
maintenance.
if you have to resurface the road or
Yes.
something, but with the other water and sewer funds, that's kind of a separate thing that goes directly to the PSA or to the town of Clintwood that operate water systems on those. And you're correct, it is for expanding, it can't be used for O&M.
Yes.
For operation and maintenance.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, I gave them $1,200 for a drain pipe for one of their back
One of the back
roads
streets.
that is not state
Of
maintained,
course, you can
because
use
they
the
said they
severance
didn't
money.
have the money for that.
Right, and the severance money you can use for, like I said, drain pipes, resurfacing, any street repairs or expansion of streets, they can be used for that. But Ms. Willis, definitely whatever the pleasure of the board is, if that's something that's the pleasure of the board to do that. Friday, I went out and delivered the checks to the 3 towns. Hayside was not in, I got theirs to them yesterday. And with them, as I shared with the board, I sent a letter with that, stating on how we are responsible for the county, for accounting. I'd asked them by year end to give an accounting on how they spent those, so we've got that documentation for our records and for our auditors.
How are they spending the money, Clintwood and Hayside?
It was service.
Clintwood said they had no problem. They spent $250,000 a year on roads. They could provide us whatever we needed on that. That's not a problem. And Hayside is kind of building theirs. They've done some projects in the past. They didn't do anything last year. They held all that money in
Yeah.
a separate account. And that is allowed. You can carry
Yeah,
that
it
money
is.
over towards a bigger project. And Larry had no issue. He said that they had never used theirs for anything else. So, on that.
But if you've already given them that check,
You didn't give Klitschko theirs.
I took it to them Friday, but they may
Yeah.
not deposit or anything. They may
Oh,
still
okay.
have the check. I took all 3 out like we always do.
Oh,
But
okay.
they still have to use it on those 3 things in order.
Correct, or they have
Yes.
to return it back to us because we as a county are responsible for complying with Virginia code. And I also took a copy of the Virginia Code to all them and highlighted the section on how it had to be spent.
But is that a legal way to do that, for them to give us back their severance money for us to give a check out of the general fund? Don't we?
Well, you're gonna have to come up with 30,000. You can't use the 30,000 out of the Coal Road. You have to use 30,000 from another source out of the general fund, and that's totally legal to.
And
do
keep
that.
in mind,
It's not
Do they again give that 30,000 back to the co-road fund?
whatever the pleasure of the board is on that.
yeah,
or how.
and see Peggy, then what do they do when they have a road problem? Because they should be using that money to fix their roads and stuff. And, or.
I haven't had anybody from the town to contact me, so
So,
I didn't know that they
that's-
was wanting to do that.
I know Ms. Wilson wants to talk about that. We could put that on other business too. That's sort of outside this budget amendment,
Well,
right?
not necessarily, if we're gonna do
It's a
something.
budget
Okay, so you wanna do it now, okay.
To go ahead and take care of it right now, I think.
Well, I'm
with
just
the-
sitting here until there's motions.
With that, so,
What is it you want to do?
Well, they want it to put in their general fund. You know, they don't have much
No, they
money
don't have-
coming into the town for general fund.
their overall town budget's about $69,000 is what their annual budget is for the town of Clinchco.
Yeah. And see, their main roads are VDOT roads, and
So can they put it into the general fund? I mean,
No, I mean, that check, if they don't deposit that check, or even if they deposit and give it back, that money has to go back in with the Coal and Gas Road Improvement Fund
what we do
on that.
then?
But the 30,000, you know, you can give 30,000 out of the general fund if the board chooses to do so. We just have to come up with the money from somewhere else out of the general fund in order to.
And then I would say, if you go down that road, Clintwood has an argument because they lost revenue when Wells Fargo went down. They lost revenue when Huddle House went down. So to be fair, they're a town. If we're gonna beef up towns, because they can't sustain themselves, then we should be fair to all three towns. Because Hayside lost practically all its restaurants, I think. You know, or one of the major ones.
Which whatever motions the board wants to make,
Well-
if,
Mr. Martin, is there funds to do the 30,000?
right now we have in our reserve for contingencies to get us through the year.
We don't have much.
I think it's about 97,000 that we have. And that's just the account for the things that we don't know that could come up. If we had to pull 10,437 out of that reserve with the current budget amendment we're doing now with three is
I
$97,000.
think
We have
most
to
of them
pull it
just
out of
puts it
that.
in their general fund and uses it for different things, don't
No,
they?
but-
Because they've
No,
never
they
had
said
to
they
account
didn't.
for it until this year.
They've not had to
Well,
account for it, but both have assured me they've never used it for anything but
Mm-hmm.
allowable projects. So
Yeah, yeah.
That's Clintwood.
Because they do the
Hayside.
code.
Right, they both said they were aware of that, and there's no issue with it, so. But yes, Ms. Willis, you can pull it out of the general fund, out of this reserve for contingencies line, if the board, if you want to make a motion, the board chooses to do so, that can be done, so.
We're losing $30,000 then.
We will be losing $30,000.
You should be losing 90,000. Because each of those other towns. But, you know, here's the thing.
Well, I can see a difference because Clintwood is a much larger town than Clinchco and they have more sources of revenue. Just look at Food City, they're gonna have more sources of revenue there.
But you gotta ask the question, should they be a town? They can't keep a police officer.
They do
Well,
have a
that's
police
up to the
officer.
General
They
Assembly
don't have
whether
a
they're a
revenue.
town or not.
Recently, they tried to
It's
expand their
not.
boundary
Well,
just to.
they would want to revoke pound, but they didn't. The General
Look,
Assembly.
They got into this because they wanted to be able to apply for grants. Back in
I understand they
2011,
don't have the
2012, they
revenue
got
to do
grant
that.
money, and the town manager went to jail for embezzling, I think, or misusing it.
Where's that
Clinchco,
at? Town manager went to jail.
yeah, back in
years
two,
ago.
Or something.
yeah. Yep. And then, you know, you look at, we ourselves, we knew that they were tearing down a playground to make money. They turned around and sold the equipment to Hayside Kiwanis for $1,000 and then came and got 60,000 from us to put it back.
They didn't, that playground, I asked David about that. You're talking about the one from Clinchco?
Yeah,
And he said that it wasn't, good enough and pieces gone from it, that it was not, good equipment.
But the point is, Shelby, they made money on
Ron,
that
it
operation.
doesn't matter what's brought up, you're against it. So I'm gonna make the motion that we do the 30,000 for them because they are different than the other towns.
I'm gonna make a substitute motion.
Go ahead.
My substitute motion then is you be fair and give each of the towns $30,000 if we're gonna go down this road. Because these
All right,
other
so-
towns that experienced losses during COVID and all that.
So what's your motion?
My
Did you
motion.
state it clearly? Well, yours is
Yeah.
overridden
All right.
for now.
All right.
Yeah,
Go ahead, please.
I make a motion that we
You're
give
cleaning
each
out
town
any kind of money we got
$30,000.
left.
What?
Well, let's let him
You're
make it.
cleaning us out to zero. We have
He's
no
got more money
contingency fund.
and all we've done, I told you the budget was flawed and we were
What's your
gonna
motion,
do that.
Mr.
Please,
Peters?
yes, please articulate it again for the record, because I didn't really understand.
I make a motion that we give each of the three towns, Hayside, Clintwood, and Quinco, $30,000.
From the
to be-
contingency fund?
Then they would have to relinquish
Yeah.
their 30,000 back to Coal Road and Guys.
Well,
then.
No.
but our committee would have to do that. So there's no guarantee it would.
No guarantee it'll pass them.
That's exactly right.
Right.
So
So,
is there a second to Mr. Peters' motion? It would be $60,000 to each of our three towns in total. 30,000 of which would have to be used on roads, water, or sewer. 30,000 of which could be used for anything. So that's his motion.
well, I had nothing to do with 60 because we've already given the 30,000 from the road.
Well, I think it puts it in context, though. It's not as if you framed it as if the 30,000 would be reverted back. That's not
No, I didn't say that.
accurate. Okay, well, I was making sure. So there's your motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? One last call for a second. Motion will fail. Are there any other motions in regard to the budget amendment?
My motion would be back on the floor, correct?
It is.
Well, yeah, right, that's right.
And
She didn't need to
it's back
renew
on the
it.
floor and it needs a second.
Right, need a second. Is there a second to Ms. Willis's motion?
I'll second that because that's in my district, but I'm also, for the last couple of years, Clinchco, with it being in my district, failed to ask me anything, to do anything for them. I don't know where they've all gotten, what they all feel about me or what, but I have always tried to support Clinchco, and I will make this motion, the second on this.
I agree with you, Ms. Cotter.
Yeah, they don't, you know, they may, Tina may send me a message and says, can you give us some money, or can you give us a load of gravel to put beside the road, or can you get us some money for a drain pipe to put up on, I don't know, I don't remember what the name of the road is, but it's one of the back roads and that. But I never hear anything what Clinchco wants until we come to the meeting and Miss Willis does it, you know.
Okay, motion second. Ms. Willis, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Ms. Slust?
I sure hate to go out and see that money come out of our contingency fund, but I'll vote yes.
Ms. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
I'll just say that my intentions really was we shouldn't be going down this road at all.
Well, I understand that too.
Yeah, well.
I mean, I understand that.
But you're not saying what you should then, because
Right.
it's not right there. But I'll say no.
I'll vote yes, Ms. Clerk, 4-1, the budget amendment. Let's go to item 7B, Mr. Barton, please.
Is that all we need to, is that all?
That's all we need to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 7B in your board packet is asking that the board would like to have a motion to declare the property purchase at 3600 Sand Lake Road in Birchley to be declared a surplus property so that it can be sold. And for the people here today, the plan is, this is a double wide that was purchased through the CFPF floodproofing grant. And we are looking to get an auctioneer, advertise this, sell that for whatever proceeds can be got to move it off the land. And then it's a very nice home, and the money would go back into the floodproofing program to do additional work in the Hayside community.
Could you please refresh the people on that?
Sure.
On how this come about?
How this all came about is there is, our building inspector, Mr. Rex, did an excellent job applying for a grant through, it's a federal grant for community flood proofing. And the criteria for this grant is people that were not able to participate in the Hayside 202 floodproofing project. For whatever the reason might be, their house was built after 2006, or any other issues that might prevent them from participating, then they're eligible to participate in this program on this. And there's about $2.3 million that the county has, was awarded for this. And, you know, right now, there's a board that's appointed to this. Board of Supervisors approves everything, but that board is 2 residents in Hayside, myself, Mr. Peters, and Mr. Rex. And you have Mr. Anderson and, what's the other gentleman's name, Ron,
Well,
on the board?
So how much did the
Brett.
county give for
Brett.
this double wide right here?
I'm
Careful,
sorry.
no, the county didn't give it.
The
That's what I
county,
want to
yeah, they took it
clarify.
out there.
Yes, all this was
All right,
paid
not
from
the
the grant
county, then how
funding.
much you taking out?
From the grant program, the county didn't pay anything for it. We have no expenses in any of
Okay,
this.
I'm
It's
sorry, I
Thank
misspoke
you.
that.
and for the public,
$188,000.
I'd like to say something, for the public's benefit, we had the misfortune of some of the folks
I like
in
this.
these flood areas that are, their Corps here fixing, no one was enforcing ordinances and stuff, and they mistakenly built houses where they shouldn't have, or how they should have. And if anyone knows our building inspector, Mr. Chris Race, he did this on his own initiative.
He did a
And
good
got
job.
this $2 million for us to go back and be able to do this.
He had this.
It wasn't in his job description to do it. He realized the problem and he did that. He took care of it.
These people on these properties here could not participate with,
No, they could not.
with the Army Corps of
'Cause they were
Engineers
built-
floodproofing.
They were
built after
2006, yeah.
January 2006.
Yeah.
And at that point, January 2006 is when we did the agreement. So they were supposed to be enforcing flood control at that
Do
point.
you have any idea when this auction will take place?
Not a set date yet, but we'd have to, you know, once we get your permission to declare it as surplus and pursue this.
Yeah, I'll make a
then-
motion to declare it as surplus property, just so.
And to clarify, did any local money go towards this?
No local money
Thank you.
whatsoever
I'm sorry,
went towards
I'm
any of this
sorry.
and will not go towards any
I
of this
second the
project.
motion that we advertise this surplus property.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
As well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Item C, Peggy, you want to
If I
talk
could do item
about?
7B2 as well, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to do them.
House.
Okay, I thought she'd done them both. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Item 7B2 is going to be the property purchased at 3224 Stanley Road in Birchleys.
Oh, I thought we did
I'll make a
Yeah.
motion
I
to
did too.
approve it.
I make a motion that we
Mr.
advertise that
Peters
on the
had the second.
surplus also.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Shelby. Mr. Peters made the motion
Oh,
before. You
I'll
want to
second
second it? Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well.
But now I think this house is gonna be done a little bit different. They're
It will be,
probably,
as far as this
Yeah.
home, it's a stick-built home, and so what we're auctioning off is going to be salvage rights for the home.
yeah.
For anybody to remove. It's a very nice
Windows
house,
and
lots of things
anything.
that can be sold, but the caveat is, you know, whatever they take off or whatever they
Okay,
have to
well,
take off to
nice
get
home.
to what they want, all has to be disposed of. And that's just going to reduce the cost that the grant's going to have to pay for demo in the house.
Yeah, and the
So
other one will
different-
be sold as a home
different people
because
Home
it's a
can be moved
modular.
off and be moved
Okay.
somewhere else.
Provide
correct?
different
Yes, sir.
So different people can like say, I'll take the railing and, how you gonna do
No,
that?
just one person, it would be one person's bidding for
Get to buy the whole
salvage rights.
house
It
to
is
get
salvage.
A big
anything?
salvage rights, they can take as much or as little as they want for what they pay. You know, it's got 2 newer heat pumps in it, nice kitchen cabinets.
Well, it says you gotta clean up the spot, that's gonna be a job.
Well, anything you take off, like if you want the trusses and sheeting off of it, that means you have to remove those shingles. You can't just throw them on the lot and leave them. You gotta haul the shingles to the transfer station to get that sheeting and trusses off, but you don't have to remove anything that you don't want.
Well,
Think it might be sold as a whole for salvage or separate bids if people
No, it'd be
want.
all for salvage.
does that, if you bought this house, if you raised it up 13.4, what's he got that for, feet? What's that mean? To make it flood-proof?
That's just a picture that I used before when we actually approved the grant. That's how far it'd have to be raised.
Raised to make it
Uh,
flood-proof.
And the price on raising it was much more than the price for acquiring.
And the
So,
core won't raise nothing no more than
12
12 feet.
Is that right?
Yep, that's
Well,
the
I'll make a
limit.
motion, we declare that as surplus.
All right, we done made that move in
done
second.
made-
We was
Peters
just
made
doing
it,
some
Ms.
more
Wills seconded.
clarification, which was probably late, sorry.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
As well.
I didn't give you a chance, I'm sorry.
Ms. Kaiser, you want to do 7C or you want me to? or you go
Oh,
ahead?
it doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
This is on Lick Creek Road, which is also in my district, and the person that initiated this contacted Mr. Peters about it, and then I suppose he's probably also, I think it's the person who I'm thinking, has also contacted Josh about it, but it is actually in my Irvington district. And this is a resolution, whereas the Dickinson County Board of Supervisors respectfully request Virginia Department of Transportation to conduct a speed study along Lick Creek Road in the Irvington and Sand Lake districts. And whereas beginning at the intersection of Route 83, Sand Lake Road, and Route 671, Lick Creek Road, and travel approximately 16 miles to the intersection of 661 Dog Branch Gap Road and 63 Dank Mountain Road. And now therefore be it resolved that the existing speed limit is 45 to 55 mile per hour, and the board would like to request that the speed limit be lowered to at least 35. That's what this resolution is.
You'll make a motion to approve
Yes, I
it?
will make that motion to do that speed study.
I'll second it.
I would like
Go
to make
ahead.
some comments. Okay. This resolution expands on it a bit because, but I'm gonna tell you, 4 months ago, I asked for this speed study. I had no one tell me we have, or reminded me or whatever, that we had to do a resolution. I'm not sure we did either, but in two other meetings after that, VDOT was here and I asked for a follow-up on it and reminded him of it. I talked to Wade Belcher today and I talked to the citizen that originally asked this, and he informed me that they are out there already. They've been out there to do a preliminary study, and they said, yeah, we're gonna do the speed study. Now, that's for the portion I asked for, I assume, but this will add to it and that. He said they also fixed the other thing that I had mentioned, was he had a hole that he thought needed to be marked because a car went in it and turned upward. So, that's all I have to say.
We've always had to do a resolution.
Well, that's the law. That's what I was gonna
Yeah,
tell
but none
Mr.
of you said
Peters.
anything when I brought it up.
Well,
You've been on the
years.
board for 8 years.
Well, yeah, but we don't do these every day, so it would've been
Well,
nice.
Well,
if-
we've done
So I'm
numerous
the one
ones
that
since I've
had
been
this
here.
resolution drafted, and you think they just magically were out there doing that?
No.
Okay. How do you reckon they got out there doing
Lord
that?
have mercy.
I can tell you, Mr. Deal called the governor.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no, he did.
he told me.
Me and Mr. Deal both did.
He did call.
Yeah.
You know this.
What?
Me and
Yeah, he
Mr.
did.
Deal were
I
on
know.
call together, but anyway.
And Wade Belcher said, yeah, we took care of it. We're doing it.
Yep. All
So-
right, you got made the motion, Ms. Kaiser.
I made the
I'll
motion, you second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying
Aye.
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 As well. Thank you, Ms. Lyle, for preparing this for me.
Mr. Chairman, that's Route 80, not Route 83.
Sure.
Well, it says the intersection of 83 and 671.
It would be Route 80.
It would be
It's
63
Route 80,
and Route 80, wouldn't it?
Route 80.
Yeah, Route 80 goes that way. I didn't even notice
Ron said
that.
Route 83, I guess he's reading wrong.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
said 83
it
on
should
it.
say
Route 80.
63 and 80, shouldn't it?
It should.
For both,
Yeah.
both
I
intersections.
think that road up there's 80. Yeah.
Mr. Attorney, could we just have the clerk do
Just
a,
letting you know.
no, I appreciate it. Do we
She
need a
can
whole
just
new
make a
motion, or can she just
correction on it,
correct it?
can't she?
I think you probably need a new motion.
Okay.
It could be noted in the minutes, but it's easy enough to correct here.
Yeah.
All right, so all we would need is the Route 80.
Then I will make the motion again that we approve this resolution for Route 80, Sand Lake Road, and Route 671, Lick Creek Road, and travel approximately 16 miles to the intersection of Route 661, Dog Branch Gap Road, and Route 63, Dank Mountain Road.
Thank you. I'll
Yes.
second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, VACO Conference 7D.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, when our clerk, Ms. Lyle, received the information from VACO about the annual conference that we attend each year, she shared that with me, and I shared that out with the board, and asked who was interested. We have 3 slots, is what we're allowed. I generally go with 2 board members. As of right now, who we have signed up would be myself, Mr. Peters, and Ms. Kaiser on that. You've got the approval forms within your packet for each of the 3 of us. What the estimated fees will be on that is approximately So $1,000, $1,100 for each of these.
And
to
the
attend
one
that.
that's got my name on it, I don't care to pay for my own meals while I'm gone, so that $60 or so that's in there for meals can come off. I can pay for my meal.
Well, I sort of wanted to go too.
What did you do?
Why would we pay for Mr. Peters to go when he's got a home in another state and moving, or basically already moved, and
But
coming off this board in
well-
3 months? What is there for you to learn at Vaco that you're gonna
I'll
have in
help out
Tennessee?
Larry.
You gonna do what?
I'll help Larry. We kind of split and conquer when we're
Do you
on.
live in Tennessee right now?
No, not
Do your
yet.
vehicles have Tennessee tags on?
No,
Your wife's doesn't?
yeah,
Your wife's does?
part of the time, yes.
So you paying, your vehicle's registered in Tennessee?
No, I just answered.
And you
that.
wanna go to a Vaco conference?
Yeah.
And you're moving to Tennessee?
I think as him being a member of the board, he has that right to go.
But Miss Sluss wants to go, and it's knocking her
No, I
out.
ain't gonna knock him out. If he wants to go, go on.
I just don't really know why we would pay $1,100 for a Tennessee
I'm just trying to
resident.
help myself learn.
I'm not a Tennessee
He's not
resident. I wouldn't be on this
Tennessee.
board if I was a Tennessee
Oh.
resident.
You're gonna be,
It's
aren't you?
okay, Josh, I don't have to go nowhere.
But are you gonna be though? Like in 3 months?
Don't know when that'll happen.
So what do you expect to learn at the Vaco conference? That
When we go, the three of us split up and we attend different seminars.
I don't think we attended one seminar together
No,
last year, or year before last. I didn't go
When
last
is
year.
it? When is
Sorry.
it?
It's
It is
November
November
14th?
12th, 13th,
No,
and
November the
14th.
12th.
So-
Okay, so we would have, Mr. Peters would have 2 meetings left on this board?
I guess November, December.
So what do you expect to learn, stiffing the taxpayers another $1,100 for you to travel that would help this county in 2 months? I'm just curious.
I'm not stiffing the taxpayers. I'm a member of this board. And
I'm
that's
just
part of our,
curious.
you went out to the legislative session. You didn't ride out with us. We had to drive another county vehicle out there. So don't sit there and make accusations that I'm stiffing.
No, I'm just asking you. You'll have 2 meetings
Well,
left.
I have to see the schedule, but
Oh.
we'll go to different seminars.
Do we need a motion, or are you just informing?
No, we'll have to have a motion on this because in February 22nd, 2022, we updated our policy that says that the board has to approve this travel for board members.
Floor's open.
I make a motion that we send the 3 that signed up, because all of us had the opportunity to sign up to go. When Mr. Martin sent the email out, we all had the opportunity. And Ron is a member of this board, and he always brings back a report. And, I mean, as long as he's a member of this board, he has the opportunity to go. So my motion is the 3 that signed up are the ones to represent the county.
And this is at the homestead?
Yes.
It is, they moved it back there this year.
So we're gonna antagonize
I'll
the
say,
Hayes, I'm discussing. I'm not asked for a second
you
yet.
didn't ask to discuss.
I didn't ask for a second either. We antagonize members of the Hayside Kiwanis who on their own personal time come in here with information that you've asked for 7.5 years, almost 7 3/4 years, over $600 power bill. Yet we're having the local taxpayers, not grants, not federal money, Dickinson County taxpayers, pay for you to go on what I'm estimating the 6th trip to one of the most lavish Omni resorts in the whole Commonwealth. And we're gonna antagonize Mr. Deal, Mr. Yates, Mr. Bartley, Mr. Mullins, Mr. Hay.
I didn't antagonize. I
Oh.
pointed out some obvious
Okay.
things that we're paying.
I
to
just wanted
sustain
clarity
all
on that.
up
So
there.
enjoy your trip. Hope you have a good time. So is there a second? The Omni
I'll second
Homestead
it.
Resort, ladies and gentlemen.
I
That's
second.
where we went for years, and then they moved it because they were remodeling the homestead. But that's where they had it for years.
For a person that's going to Tennessee at the end of the year, we're gonna pay $1,100. And we raise Cain with a facility and members of that community down there that work hard for the children. Unbelievable. Is there a second?
Yeah, I did.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No. Item number 9, contract, Mr. Barton.
Yes, item number 9 in your packet, you have something we do each year. It's our contract with AASC, Appalachian Agency for Senior Citizens in 4-County Transit, to provide public transportation and to provide the college transportation to UVA-wise, Mountain Empire and Southwest. The amounts referenced in this contract are the same amounts that were discussed during our budget conversations. Mr. Brian Beck came over and addressed the board during that time. But all this is the same thing there, and it's similar terms, same terms as last year's lease with updated amounts that were already in the budget, so.
6,000.
Do they have very many college students from these 3 colleges riding that bus, or would we have to ask them?
We'd have to ask them,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
They do.
They have a lot of people riding this bus? I don't know about that.
They do take the bus to both colleges.
They do, all 3
Yeah.
colleges actually.
Yeah.
I see
I
them
think
ride the
so.
local one that travels to the stores and stuff. I
There's
got
some
familiar
girl,
with the
lady
college.
that
The colleges leave
I
early.
saw that.
In the
Early
morning.
in the morning.
I know they do,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
why, yeah, I
yeah.
know it's
they
you,
don't go
but
to
I
Grandma no
don't
more because
know
they
how
couldn't get nobody
much.
to ride.
It's a good
They will
service.
if they call them, and they'll stop by and pick them up. Same way with My Ridge. I've got them to come to My Ridge, but you have to call ahead so they can
Right.
plan to come and get you.
Correct.
And I make a motion that we sign or approve the contract, because this is just a normal contract that we've done for several years with 4-County Transit.
I'll second. All those in favor, any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
As well, item 10, Mr. Barton.
Okay, item 10A, in the addendum packet that was given to y'all, there's an updated 10A and an updated 10B. In red, we put in there what changed on 10A. Statement was added that a signed acknowledgement of receipt will be required from the newly hired employee for the employee handbook, drug testing, computer, internet usage, vehicle usage, and travel and reimbursement policies. That's standard practice that we do. In our packets that we give out, there's always an acknowledgement page for each of those items. What this policy is, it's basically establishing an onboarding and offboarding policy for this as we hire employees and as employees leave us. It's just a standard policy that most companies have, most counties have, that we do not. So I'll answer any questions that anyone has on this.
I make a motion that we adopt this policy.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
As well.
Aye.
Item 10B, Mr. Barton.
10B, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, 10B, you've got an updated 10B before you. Again, what this is a continuity of operations plan. I just attached 2 pages that changed. We added a signature line for Mr. Peters as the Emergency Management Director. Also on page 9, we added his position with that first responsibility on the coordination efforts with this. This continuity of operations plan, we had one in place through COVID for what were to happen in the event of a natural disaster, a fire, or one of our facilities was unavailable. And this plan is something that I reached out, I think I sent him here, Mr. Thacker, earlier. He's reviewed this as well and said it looked good to him. It's just what happens in those events, what kicks in, and what we do. So I'll answer any questions anyone has on that.
I make a motion we pass the continuity of operations plan.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please say
Aye.
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 Well, you vote, Ms. Willis.
Yes, I did, I
Okay.
voted aye.
Appointments 11A, the first one being to the,
I've
Lonesome
asked
Pine
about 3
Library.
people and I can't get no yes for many of them.
Well, I got a message from Onita Stanley, and she thinks that Sheila is ready to just be reappointed, that.
I talked to Sheila today.
And she don't want it?
She said I'll tell you what she said here.
Oh, well, I talked to Onita, and
I
she,
think she would, her husband passed away, so that gave her, and she really didn't give me she said, I just don't know if I want to go back to the board. Ask Nola Mullins if she would be interested. She used to teach at Longsford. I asked Roseanne Hughes, she wasn't interested. I asked,
I know Nola.
Kathy Large, no. But Sheila, she says, I just don't know if I want to go back to the board. I don't think you can't get mileage, you don't get anything for it. And
Cost off.
I don't know Nola Mullins. do you
I
know?
do, yeah, I'll ask her.
I'll just pay.
Yeah,
pass it again,
yeah, let's,
pass it again.
Sheila may
Let's just
change her
table it
mind.
again,
All right,
okay?
tabled.
Okay.
The next one is the Health Authority Board.
We pick.
Nobody. We tabled it.
Nicholas resigned because he doesn't feel. He works for
Motions for this board.
HMG. Did you talk to Tanya Gully, see if she'd be interested in that?
I haven't spoken with anyone.
I sent Melina Mullins at the Hayes High Clinic a message today. I do not know her phone number, and she never has answered it to see if she would be interested in serving. This is on the Health Department board, ain't it?
No, it's
No,
not.
it's not.
Part of-
Virginia Health
Oh,
Authority
okay,
Board,
okay.
Yeah, Southwest Virginia Health Authority
which is
Board.
controlled by
Okay.
ballot.
Yeah, ballot's very.
Oh,
part of
okay.
that.
That he didn't feel comfortable because he works for HMG.
I think we'll have to table that one until we can come up with something.
Is that the consensus? Is there any motions?
That's fine with me.
All right, Ms. Clerk, we're going to just table those, move on. Item
Could
12.
we appoint like a nurse or something
Yeah,
that would
that'd be
be,
good.
I think so. I don't think there's a qualification that it has to be.
something to do with
Deal
the
crossed
medical
my
field,
mind today.
correct? Okay.
The Dr. Deal crossed my mind today, but I don't know him that well, and I didn't contact him, but I did reach out to Melina Mullins, and she never responded.
I don't do that either.
Either one of those would be good, so.
Oh, the doctor.
But we'll just table it and come up with somebody.
Okay.
We'll come up with something.
Item 12, Mr. Barton.
Item 12, we have the approval of Behavioral Health Services FY '24 performance contract, and that information is in your board packet. And I think we have, Mr. Mullins, Executive Director, and Chair of the Board here as well for any questions that y'all may have.
I make
We didn't have
motion that
any
we
during the
approve.
public hearing, did we?
Yes, we did. You
I'll
make a
discuss
motion,
after
I'll
the
second the
motions.
motion that we go ahead and approve it. This is just
You
a
have a motion
performance
and second
contract.
for approval of this. Is there any discussion?
I have a discussion.
Go ahead.
Okay, this really doesn't read like a contract, and I know that because we talked about it last year. It reads more like a budget. And as you guys, as I said earlier, I didn't vote for the budget because this was another thing that I thought that was kind of funny. We had always been told that we are required to do this 10% match. In some of my travels, I was able to learn that our neighboring counties don't pay the 10% match. So I want to read something to you here, and it's basically the budget authorized, instead of their 287,000, 10% match, we only gave 187. The county has always provided that 10% match on the state money, regardless of whether it was hard times, such as when Alpha Coal Company went bankrupt. We were instructed it was mandatory and did not know there was a waiver process. We discovered our neighbor Russell, or I did, discovered they have not paid that 10% match for 8 years. Together with Tazewell and Buchanan, Russell paid a whopping 0.5%, $90,000, for basically $27 million. This year, we agreed to have behavioral health apply for a waiver, so our match would only be $50,000 versus the 10%, $287,000. Mr. Evans ran down there and negotiated this back to $187,000 a match. I want the public to understand behavioral health gets to bill Medicaid for their services. They are making money, and they have $2 million in the bank in a CD. Now, the board has been told numerous times by the director they are required to maintain this money as a cushion if funding is short 1 year. I asked Mr. Mullins to provide that statute or reference, got no answer. So I contacted the state, and they indicated there is no reference. I was able, however, to find a reference indicating they should keep enough money in reserve to cover their local match, which would be $287,000, not $2 million. Now, I'm glad that they have money in the bank, and I'm glad with the service. They provide great services for us in our community. I suppose this is a case of local funds are short. We don't have to pay the match. It's pretty easy to get a waiver. Now, just so in the last 2 years, They purchased $500,000 to $600,000 in real estate in the town. They paid cash. They can pay higher wages than we can. They pay for employees' education benefits. Their employees are in our medical plan, but our employees have to pay, that includes all the constitutional officers, including the sheriff's department, they have to pay co-pays for their medical coverage. The agency picks up those co-pays. They pay their employees club dues if they join a service club such as Kiwanis or Lions Club. They give their employees an entire paycheck for a Christmas bonus. Our employees receive $500, and I want to explain this. We didn't start doing bonuses until a couple years ago because one of the other agencies, social services, wanted to be able to give their people bonuses. And this entire board was like, wait a minute, we need to control this because we don't want them giving higher bonuses than what we can get. Just so you understand, if we'd have done the raises to include the sheriff's department 911 last year, roughly 90 people in the county we'd have been paying a $500 bonus. The only reason they weren't included is because Josh excluded you because he gave you the raise. And when we implemented the raise for the rest of the county the next month, we delayed it 2 months later. So that more than made up for the difference there. We did not give the sheriff's deputies a raise. It equated to $666. If we did that, the total for 90 employees at $500, roughly $45,000 is what that cost us to do those bonuses each year. Then you look at behavioral health. Last year, 63 employees, and they paid out $79,000 in Christmas bonuses. Shoot, one of the employees, I believe, received a $5,000 plus bonus. I know, at least after taxes, it was $3,472. This board specifically limited these bonuses to $500 because they didn't want that, someone paying out more than we give our own employees, since we have the authority. Look, I want this organization and service to be successful, and they are. But we should not be building a bank for them at the expense of the county when all you've heard tonight is we're short on money. We're adding expenses. We already extended $100,000 plus to the budget, and we've added more tonight. This is just another example of a conservative Republican board in action. Because 8 years these other counties have not paid that. Think about that, 0.5%. $27 million, and those 3 counties gave them $90,000, pitched in $90,000. We had to do $187,000 for $2.8 million. And the reason there's such a disparity is there are like 100,000 people in those 3 counties. We're like 13,000, 14,000 people. Everything's based on population, I believe. So that's all I got to say. I know I can't vote for it.
Anybody else? I think we already got a motion and second, right?
Yep.
I made the motion. Who seconded?
Okay, all those
I
in
said-
favor,
oh.
please say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. So you did vote for it?
Well, no. I said no earlier, but I was in the wrong time. Yeah.
So 4 yeses and 1 noes?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just told you no.
Okay.
You didn't vote?
All right, item 13.
Mr. Chairman, did you vote?
Yeah, I voted yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you didn't vote. I didn't.
I'm already, God, and I know we had a couple of matters we wanted to lump here. Ms. Willis, didn't you have one on other business, or am I wrong on
No,
that?
I don't.
Okay, was there any other business?
Yeah, I think
She
we had a
added
couple
hers
things.
to
Rhonda
the
had
budget.
some.
That's right.
Okay.
Is there
Okay.
anybody
had
else
some.
with other business? Did you have some other business, Mr. Peters?
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead. I don't remember what it was, but whatever it
I'm
was.
trying to get my,
I thought y'all asked.
Rhonda, you had something too.
No, they took care of it
Okay.
before.
Well, let's catch our breath. Does anybody have other business they need?
Yeah, as soon as we go closed session, I'm going bathroom.
Well, I got something we covered earlier. Oh,
I've been over here since
You
4:30.
covered it under litter, I think, Mr.
Yeah.
Peters.
You covered litter and I covered mine, so I don't think we have any. Did you go?
I didn't have that.
As far as I know.
Oh, I know what my other business
Go
is.
ahead.
I would like to make a motion that we give the 2 Lions clubs and 2 other Kiwanis clubs funding, and maybe, and probably in the VFW. I mean, we're paying out all this money, and these guys, you see all over Facebook delivering stuff to children and stuff. So if we're gonna support one private organization, we should be providing some financial support to all of them. Even like the horse club, they could probably use an extra 5,000. I mean, we're 10,000 plus into these other ones.
So what's your motion?
So I make a motion, we up their ante and give them
So how
something.
much?
Let's be clear, you said Clintwood,
Well, who knows what
Clintwood,
he's saying? I
Kiwanis.
don't know. That's what I'm trying to get you to
Clinchco,
clarify.
We
Kiwanis.
gave the veterans 5,000, they sent it back.
Well, that was kind of because it was inappropriate for us to use that money for that.
It was not inappropriate for you to open up the business, the building again after COVID.
No, we couldn't use the COVID money for that. That's what, you came back and said that was
can't
wrong.
use the COVID money, correct?
Um,
So you've got Clintwood, Kiwanis, Clinchco, Kiwanis,
the VFW,
you said the Lions, which Lions?
Lions in Clintwood, Lions in Hayside, Clinchco. They're all viable private
Is Hayside,
organizations.
Clinchco two separate, or is that one, Hayside,
What's-
Clinchco?
Together.
Together?
They're together.
How much you want to give them?
Well,
That's 5
we-
organizations.
What about
Let's-
McClure? You left McClure out.
McClure's getting something too. They get $9,000
Oh,
worth of
yeah.
electricity.
Oh, that's right.
I wasn't
I'm
doing
sorry,
it
I'm
intentionally,
sorry.
but that,
I'm sorry.
I,
You're right. They're-
so, I guess, let's say 5,000 apiece.
Says $25,000.
We gave,
So that's your motion?
we gave
Yep.
Clinchco 2,700, back not long ago, for something that was voted out for them. They wanted 500 from each
Wasn't that the,
individual.
or the day with the children, special needs children?
It was.
I don't think that was
ICANN
necessarily
Day is what it's
Clinchco,
for.
ICANN Day it was.
Just for
That's
a
cool.
specific event,
Yeah,
And money went to the school, if I'm not mistaken, we wrote the check to the
yeah,
school
it did,
on that.
it did.
It's
You
not, it's not that I'm so against giving organizations money, but these other 2 organizations of McClure and Hayside, they have facilities that is open to the public. These
Yeah, I think that's
5
the
here
distinction.
doesn't have anything open to the public to go use.
But they operate on donations and stuff where they're giving stuff right back to the people and
And you
charity.
know, Ron, they all applied for the ARPA funds and the funds that we had, and they didn't qualify for them.
Yeah. They, you know, because that's why we had to pull it back, so that's where I'm at.
So that's your motion.
Well, you know, I have to, I have to agree with him in a sense, because,
It's a different,
well, I understand.
those
it's-
2 are different.
I'm saying
Well,
right now,
Hayside, the Cleveland
I say
Kiwanis,
just spend all
Cleveland
the
Lions
money
Club is
tonight.
very active.
We don't have to worry about nothing.
So
They
is
put the
the
crosses up out
Hayside
there.
Klitschko one. But they are, and they're giving stuff
So I'm gonna
back.
have to agree with Ron.
Really, you all need to be giving those out of your personal
Well, I do.
counts
I
for
give
those
myself $500.
organizations. These 2 organizations are entirely different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not,
What were
it
you
it
gonna
is a
say,
lot
Larry?
different operating of.
I think we're down around the reserve for contingencies down around the $60,000
Well, I'm
mark.
sure
and we've got a long
Kevin
way
is a
to go
member
to
of the
get
Kiwanis
end,
Club.
so-
Did y'all use $5,000?
Doesn't seem that matters.
Kevin?
Most certainly we could, yes.
Yeah,
Now, I remind y'all, we've got $60,000 to get through the what-ifs that might come up right
I
now
know,
in our
what ifs.
reserve.
I'm just
Well,
trying
we
to
give
be
30
equitable to
I
the
vote
private
for the
organizations.
Klitschko get
And half of
$30,000.
Yeah, but they
that, the
put the
rescue
30
squad
back
and fire
in.
department is needing
I don't know what we're
repairs.
doing with that, whenever we do the repairs either.
That would cover all the repairs.
And then everybody from now on will be told, no, nothing. We have no money left.
Well, that's not necessarily the case.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen politics played so much.
Me,
over
not in the
over
16
the
years I've been
stupidest
on the
stuff.
board.
All right, so you got, did you second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay.
Miss Willis,
No,
Miss Sluss,
Yes.
Miss Kaiser,
No.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
I vote yes.
All right, so I might suggest, Mr.
So did it pass?
Sturgill,
Yep, pass
this-
through too.
If it passed, then I think, in order to do this, we're actually gonna have to make an appropriation before we can actually pay this money to them. I think we'll have to revisit our budget amendment in order
Yeah,
to do that, so.
okay, because we got more coming. You're gonna have to.
It's different. I mean,
It's different, but we've never done anything
So-
else to the rest of
Do
them.
that next month, or do we do that now and with the budget again?
You can amend.
Does that exceed the percentage of our statute?
No, we're not exceeding yet, no.
What do you mean politics?
But we're actually appropriating the money to them
I just represent my.
on this as a line item in the budget. We're working in the budget to.
Well, I
account for
understand.
this.
So we're done with this item.
You do the same.
What's next, Chair?
I guess, what, I was just waiting on Larry to see if he needs some more clarity.
We can amend the agenda to put it back on for the budget amendment with 2/3 vote of the board. But it would require 2/3.
It would require 4 votes. Same
Correct.
thing we had last month.
Otherwise, it'd be special call meeting or
For agenda item next month.
exactly.
It could be an agenda item next meeting, right?
It can,
Can be.
Yeah. But we've approved to do it.
But I
We
can't
just gotta
pay
amend
to
the
appropriate
budget.
the money in the budget, correct?
Yeah. That's what I figured would be the case.
Are you good, Larry?
But to amend the budget
Yes.
tonight, you have to have 2/3 of the vote.
All right, then we would move to item 14.
I make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A, 5 and 8, Section 2.2-3711A5, Economic Development Update, 2.2-3711A8, consultation with legal counsel.
There's second.
A second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ayes, vote. Closed session.
We'll be back in open session. We need a motion to certify matters in closed session.
I'll make a
motion to
motion.
certify.
Go ahead.
Is there a second?
You have to certify that we only discuss those issues, right?
Yes.
That's what it's.
Okay.
You seconded it?
I second it.
Okay, Ms. Willis, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Ms. Luss?
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
A yes for me, Madam Clerk. Are there any motions coming out of closed session? None.
That's yours.
We would like, we need to schedule a meeting for fire and rescue personnel, special call meeting. Are there any suggested dates for that?
When are you going on vacation, Larry?
I'll be back, first week in September I'm going, I'll be back the 11th.
The 11th, okay.
What about September 19th?
Hold on.
Yeah, whatever time I can do.
I'm fine with that. dude.
I should be fine with that. I don't have anything
September
down on my
19th at
calendar.
1:30?
What time?
Wait just a
1:30.
second.
Works fine with me.
For some reason, I think that's my PSA meeting.
Would you be able to do it after? Or do you?
What did you say? What time did you
I
say?
was suggesting 1:30. Would that give you enough time?
Yeah, I think so.
You want to say 2 o'clock to be safe?
Let's do 2 o'clock to
Okay.
be safe.
September 19th.
Would you notice it in a way so we can vote in case we need to vote on something? Okay, all right. Then that takes us to supervisor comment. Ms. Willis,
I have none.
Ms. Luss,
I had not anything.
Ms. Kaiser.
Yes, I have a comment. Relatively pleased with tonight's meeting. I wish that if we had unending funds, it would be astronomical of what we could spend, I'm sure. I just wish that we had operating money that we could meet everybody's needs. But my one main issue is a comment that I want to make about last month's meeting. I made this statement publicly, so I'm going to make a public apology. And I have typed this out now. It says, I would like to take this opportunity to publicly apologize to the citizens in my district, particularly Clinchco, or the people in the area that went to Clinchco School, for an incorrect statement that I made at our last meeting. After the certificate presentation was made to David Robinette and his son Chance, I made a statement about David being from Irvington High School, and I also stated that Irvington High School was the first to close. What I should have stated was Irvington High was the first high school to close and not the first school. I am very much aware that Clinchco Elementary closed in 2011, the year before Irvington High School in 2012. I also know that Clinchco Elementary is in my district. I did inadvertently speak wrong about it, and I want to just say that I am very sorry about the way that I made my comment. No one has said anything to me directly about wanting an apology, but there has been social media comments about my incorrect statement, and I just want everybody to know that I'm sorry for the way I said that. We were discussing Irvington High School, and I should have said Irvington High School was the first high school. But, and again, I hate that. And that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Mr. Peters.
No, I don't have anything.
I'll just say I picked up hay yesterday and I'm
Yeah,
miserable.
you've been sniffing all week.
Sniffing and congested, so.
Snorting
Hope
around.
our fire committee, I don't believe we'll meet again before the fire, so I hope everything goes well with the fire.
Lucas.
This Hayside lease, the only thing that I wanted done was to get that project done. We spent a lot of time
For that
bickering and
community,
fussing,
yes.
and I lost patience and shouldn't have, and I apologize to Rhonda for being short with her. I shouldn't have
No,
been short.
you didn't hurt my feelings.
Well, I know, but it's just frustrating. I really want that project to go. You can call it political if you want, I don't care. The more recreation opportunities we can have in Dickinson
I don't see
County,
nothing.
I want to have happen. And to me, it just seems like a minuscule thing to just spend so much time fussing and getting aggravated about. I got aggravated. But I'm glad we got it done. I'm glad to see that project move forward and that get off the ground. Again,
again, wish the best for the fair and hope we have good weather. Pray we have good weather and our families can enjoy it. Hope that our splash pad can prayerfully get open for at least a few weeks this summer. Appreciate Larry's diligence and Rhonda's diligence in trying to keep that moving forward. And we'll hope that we can have any problems
Well, thank you.
alleviated. But that's all I have. Hope everybody has a safe night. Is there
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Yes, sir. Is there
I'll
a second?
second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.